Nansheng, a city filled with noise and prosperity. Here, people from all walks of life exist. Some lose themselves in a life of debauchery and extravagance, gradually becoming lost, while others steadfastly cling to their original aspirations. Xie Shiyun was precisely such a unique individual. As a third-rate web novelist, she wrote under the pen name A Pair of Jades, specializing in modern romance novels. She was deeply beloved by her readers, so much so that her fans hailed her as the queen of modern romance. At this very moment, Xie Shiyun sat alone in her small apartment room, her eyes fixed on the computer screen, fingers flying across the keyboard, completely immersed in the world of words. Outside the door, a loud and clear voice echoed. It was Xie Shiyun's best friend, Jun. She stood there, her long, lustrous, soft, and smooth black hair cascading like a waterfall over her shoulders. She wore a fresh and elegant daisy-patterned dress, as vibrant and captivating as a blooming spring flower. The bond between these best friends was extraordinary. They had known each other since childhood, grown up together, and shared countless beautiful memories and amusing anecdotes. One could say they were two bundles of joy who had met, a combination that was simply a farce, filled with endless joy and mischievous antics. Faced with such a cute and genuine expression, she could only helplessly rub her forehead and sigh. "Oh, my little darling, I really can't do anything about you. I'm going to be late for class. Hurry up and get ready to go, otherwise I'll be criticized by the teacher again." Just then, Xie Shiyun swiftly organized her belongings with lightning speed. She wore a loose and comfortable white shirt on top, paired with jeans that perfectly accentuated her figure, her overall look being both simple and refreshingly pleasant. The college they attended was Nansheng City Financial Business College, which, for Xie Shiyun, was nothing short of a prison. This major was something she disliked immensely. She had been forced by her family to come here. Here, she had to study subjects she had no interest in and interact with people who filled her with distaste. On her way home, she also encountered a group of girls blocking her way. "Oh, isn't this our college's web novel talent? Why do you look so unhappy? Did we praise you too much today? Big writer, huh?" How could she possibly swallow such harsh words? She instantly flared up in anger, her beautiful eyes fixed on the babbling woman in front of her. "You." The girl's eyes reddened, and she went up and yanked Xie Shiyun's hair forcefully. At this pull, everyone around them came forward to watch, but not a single person stepped in to stop it. Later, she chose to withdraw herself and never returned to the college again. It was only today that Jun came to ask her to go to the college to complete the procedures. That Yurong is just like that? You can tell her 1,000,000 times, and she won't change. She's practically got princess syndrome. Xie Shiyun remained silent, closing her eyes to rest for a moment. After leaving the college, the sunlight fell upon them, casting long shadows. The two of them walked side by side down the bustling street, as if isolated from the noisy world around them. "Shiyun, what are your plans for the future?" She suddenly stopped, turned around, and gazed at her friend with resolute eyes, asking softly, "You know, your current situation is worrying. If your parents were still alive, they would be very sad to see you like this." Xie Shiyun stood quietly in place, her gaze fixed on the distance, seemingly lost in thought. A moment later, she took a deep breath and slowly began to speak. "Actually, I've always understood my parents' expectations." Jun listened silently, her eyes sparkling with admiration and encouragement. She gently nodded, indicating that she would always support a Jew's decision. A gentle breeze brushed past, rustling their hair and sweeping away a trace of gloom from their hearts. A Jew gave Jun a grateful look, and the two exchanged a smile, continuing forward with steps that seemed more firm and powerful. She slowly pushed open her front door, dragging her weary body, as if the heavy burden on her shoulders had instantly vanished. She gently shed her restrictive clothes, changed into loose and comfortable attire, then walked with light steps to her familiar swivel chair and sat down. "Hello, Miss Xie. I am Lenin, chief editor of Nansheng Xinjiang Publishing House. We saw your articles in the newspaper and feel that you meet our editorial requirements very well. We would like to inquire if you would be willing to join us as an editor. Don't worry, the salary is around 8,000 to 9,000. What do you think?" She was stunned by the sudden news, her mind a blank, completely unable to comprehend what was happening. Xinjiang, that renowned publishing house. It was a cradle that had nurtured countless outstanding editors. Good heavens, was she really that lucky? Had she truly stumbled upon a stroke of good fortune? However, amidst her joy, a hint of doubt arose in her mind. Could this be a scam? After all, there were too many scammers in society now, making one have to be cautious. She hesitated as she picked up the phone, her voice slightly uncertain. I am a bit worried. The other party seemed to sense her concerns and quickly reassured her. I understand your worries. Indeed, there are many scammers these days. However, the fact that you didn't immediately agree shows you are a cautious person, and I truly appreciate that. How about this? You can add my WeChat, so we can communicate further. My phone number is my WeChat ID. Once you've added me, we can keep in touch via phone anytime. Okay, alright. As soon as the call ended, she immediately checked his WeChat moments and found that his location was indeed Xinjiang Publishing House. It was real. Her dream was about to come true. Afterwards, she composed a message and sent it. Hello, I was the one you just contacted. May I really work at Xinjiang Publishing House? About 10 minutes later, her phone rang. Tomorrow, bring your best work, the person on the other end said, followed by a smiling emoji. She pinched her cheek. It hurt, genuinely. This wasn't a dream. She couldn't imagine that one day she could go to the renowned Xinjiang Publishing House. Her good days were coming. She was finally reaching the end of her struggles. Ever since settling the deal, Xie Shiyun had truly become a hard-working rookie editor. Although she was still just a small fry, she believed that with hard work, she could definitely achieve her dreams. Back home, she zipped over to her computer and sat down, the clatter of her keyboard filling the air as she swiftly completed the tasks assigned by the publishing house. The publisher wanted her to write another modern romance novel, and they had quite a few requirements. No over-the-top drama, and nothing too silly, white, and sweet. What's so hard about that? She was a seasoned pro, after all. With her experience and writing skills, it would be a piece of cake. She adjusted her glasses, a sweet smile on her face. She already had the story's structure and outline figured out in her head. The male lead, Song Jia, a man blessed by fortune. Muttering to herself, she typed rapidly, ensuring every character for her protagonists was perfectly chosen. Suddenly, she felt like she'd forgotten something. Oh dear, the gas stove in the kitchen seemed to have been on this whole time, from when she got home until 1 in the morning. This wasn't good. She faintly smelled leaking gas, and her heart tightened. She struggled to get up and check, only to find her entire body felt limp and her legs had no strength. She couldn't stay steady, fell directly to the floor, and passed out. Lancheng, young master, the young miss is awake. You should go see her quickly. Her expression seems a bit off, the butler said. Hearing the butler's words, he immediately stood up, eager to head to the room upstairs. He missed her. He really wanted to see her. Pushing open the door, he saw a young woman sitting on the bed, staring blankly at everything and everyone around her, including him. Xie Shiyun found it all too strange. 1 second she was at her computer typing, and the next she was in this unfamiliar world. She suddenly remembered the gas leak in her apartment, which had caused her to pass out. She had expected to wake up in a hospital, but this. Everything before her was overly exquisite and dreamlike. The room's decor was so girly, with European-style furniture. The furnishings looked expensive at a glance. How did she end up in a place like this? Did someone come in while she was unconscious? Could she have been kidnapped and sold? And the man before her was even stranger. He sat nearby, just watching her. His face was fair and smooth, with sharp, chiseled, and handsome features. His thick eyebrows arched up slightly in a rebellious way. Beneath long, slightly curled lashes were a pair of dark, deep, icy eyes that seemed wild, untamed, and devilishly charming. He was dressed in a suit, a refined and simple all-steel CK watch on his wrist, showcasing his prominent family background and impeccable taste. Who are you? Why am I here? Xie Shiyun asked, looking at him warily, her body instinctively shrinking back. The man frowned slightly and spoke. Don't you remember me? I'm Shiyue. What did you just call me? Xie Shiyun looked confused. You called me Ayun? Your name is Xie Shiyun. My name is Fu Shiyue. She had absolutely no memory of this person. Who was he? Fu Shiyue walked to the bedside, knelt down, and took her hand. It's okay, he said gently. You might still be a little confused from just waking up. I'll have a doctor come and check on you. For now, get some rest. If you need anything, just call me. After speaking, he gently kissed her forehead and then left the room. Xie Shiyun was stunned, finding it hard to understand why this man was being so intimate with her. Once she recovered, she was determined to get to the bottom of this. What was going on? Was this a movie shoot? Don't you remember me? I'm Shiyue, your fiancé, Fu Shiyue. His tone became gentle as he said this. His eyes filled with adoration as he looked at her. He looked at her, then turned to the others in the room. You may all leave. I have something to discuss with Ion. The maids and the butler obediently left, leaving just the two of them in the room. He stepped forward and gently stroked her hair. Don't be afraid, I won't hurt you. Get a good night's sleep, and when you wake up, I'll tell you what's going on, okay? Xie Shiyun felt lost, but she knew she couldn't openly defy him. She had to first figure out what was happening. She nodded, her expression dazed but obedient. She lay down and closed her beautiful eyes. Seeing the man leave, she opened her eyes again, gazing at the utterly unfamiliar environment. Could she be possessed, or had she traveled to another world? Logically, the first possibility was slim, which left only the second. She had arrived in another world. Her heart raced as she frantically searched the room, desperate to find any clue related to her identity. Finally, her eyes landed on a pink diary on the desk, and a glimmer of hope ignited within her. She carefully opened it, hoping to discover some secrets about herself. However, what greeted her was a sea of blank pages. Her spirits instantly plummeted. Except for the name on the first page, Xie Shiyun. The name was like a riddle, filling her heart with doubt and unease. She stared intently at the name, trying to decipher some information from it. She silently repeated the name, Shiyun, in her mind, as if it were the key to unlocking the mystery of her identity. Her heart beat faster and faster as countless theories flashed through her mind. Was this Xie Shiyun the same as her, or an important figure? Or was it a password? Countless questions welled up in her mind, but she could find no answers. She felt an inexplicable fear, a fear that she might never solve this mystery, never understand who she truly was. But she didn't give up. Clenching the diary tightly, she resolved to find more clues and unravel this puzzle. Dear reader, this chapter isn't over yet. Please click the next page to continue reading the more exciting parts to come. The woman stared in disbelief at the name before her. The name of this body was also Xie Shiyun. With the exact same name, she hesitantly walked to the mirror. The woman in the mirror stunned her. That face was identical to her own, as if she were seeing a ghost. Fu Shiyue, CEO of the Gu Corporation, was the most prominent figure in Lancheng. The corporation was massive, possessing both power and wealth. Countless women adored him, but he paid them no mind. The man himself was like an iceberg, difficult to melt. Xie Shiyun had been found by Fu Shiyue in the bushes by the street 12 years ago. She was an abandoned baby, her origins a mystery, with no one to verify her true identity. The only proof of who she was the necklace she wore, engraved with her name. Rumors about her were rampant. Some said she was the illegitimate daughter of the Fu family's young master, others that she was his secret lover. The stories were numerous and inconclusive. Later, with a little trickery, he dispelled those rumors, preventing them from causing her any psychological harm. He would never dislike her because of those rumors. On the contrary, he doted on her immensely, spoiling her like a treasure. He had watched her grow up healthy and strong, and the little girl he held in the palm of his hand had finally become a woman. 3 days later, at 7 in the morning, in the Fu household, Fu Shiyue and Xie Shiyun sat together at the long table for breakfast. Xie Shiyun was dressed casually today in a t-shirt and jeans. The table was laden with all sorts of breakfast dishes. Looking at it all, she couldn't help but sigh. If I eat all this, I'm going to get fat again. Hearing this, Fu Shiyue smiled. You're not fat at all. Eat more. With that, he placed a piece of Shiyun's favorite pastry into her bowl. Xie Shiyun looked at the pastry in her bowl, a warm feeling spreading through her heart. She looked up at Fu Shiyue. You eat too. They exchanged a smile, and continued to enjoy the cozy breakfast. After breakfast, Shiyue took Xie Shiyun to the garden. It was filled with all kinds of blooming flowers, their fragrance filling the air. Wow, it's so beautiful. Xie Shiyun ran over excitedly, bending down to smell the flowers. Shiyue stood quietly to the side, a smile gracing his lips as he watched her cheerful figure. Shiyue, thank you, Xie Shiyun said, suddenly turning her head to look at him. Shiyue walked over and gently put his arms around her. No need to thank me. This is what I should do. As long as you're happy, I'm content. Xie Shiyun leaned into Shiyue's embrace, feeling his warmth. She knew that in this strange world, she wasn't alone, because Shiyue was always with her. She suddenly felt the care of a family, something she'd missed since her parents passed away early, leaving her alone. Xie Shiyun looked up, her eyes shining with a determined light. Shiyue, I want to find my memories. Shiyue gently caressed her cheek, giving her an encouraging smile. I'll help you search. Inside the stellan, Shiyue and she sat in the back. I'll take you to school now, then I'll go to the company. I'll have old Pan pick you up this afternoon to come home. Will you? Will you be back tonight? She asked him, looking at him. Silly girl, of course I'll be back. That's our home, he said, gently tapping her on the nose. Ayun, you're so adorable. In the evening, Xie Shiyun returned home early to wait for Shiyue. She had prepared a sumptuous dinner, wanting to give him a surprise. When the clock struck 8, a familiar set of footsteps approached the door, and a joyful smile appeared on her face. Shiyue walked in and saw the candlelight and the delicious meal on the table, a wave of emotion washing over him. He walked up behind Xie Shiyun and gently hugged her. Thank you, you've worked hard. The two sat down to enjoy dinner, sharing their experiences from the day. After the meal, they sat on the sofa, and Shiyue handed Xie Shiyun a file. These are some clues I've found about your past. Maybe they'll help you recover your memories. Xie Shiyun excitedly took the file and began to read it carefully. Hope glittered in her eyes. I will definitely work hard to get my memories back and find out who I am. Shiyue took her hand, giving her support and encouragement. No matter the result, I'll always be by your side. On this beautiful night, they leaned against each other, their hearts full of hope for the future. It was so strange. The face was identical, but sometimes she felt none of this belonged to her. To be precise, it felt as if certain memories didn't belong to her, but would still pop up, like a dream. A feeling that was sometimes false, sometimes real. The next morning, lost in thought, she arrived at the school. She looked at the large sign before her, Lancheng University of Science and Engineering. Xie Shiyun stepped onto the campus, feeling that everything around her was both familiar and strange. She found her classroom according to the schedule, and after sitting down and opening her bag, she discovered an unfamiliar notebook inside. Curiously, she opened it. On the title page was a single line of text. This is your journey of memory. Below it were pages and pages of diary entries, recording the daily life of a girl. Xie Shiyun read them carefully. The words seemed to possess a kind of magic, gradually awakening the memories buried deep within her heart. Shiyun, you're finally back. You're so mean, not even telling me you returned. The woman speaking to her had long hair flowing down her back, tied loosely with a pink ribbon. She wore black clothes and pants, looking very cool. Shiyue, She also found it strange. Why could she subconsciously call out her name when she clearly didn't know her? The girl in front of her was named Shiyue. Xie Shiyun had a puzzled expression on her face. She tried hard to remember, but she still couldn't recall anything about Shiyue. Shiyue seemed to notice her confusion. She gently patted Xie Shiyun's shoulder and comforted her. Don't rush, take your time. You just got back, you might need some time to adjust. Xie Shiyun gave Shiyue a grateful look and nodded. Just then, the school bell rang, interrupting their conversation. The teacher walked into the classroom and began the lecture. Xie Shiyun decided to put her questions aside for the moment and focus on the class. After class, Xie Shiyun found Shiyue and asked, Shiyue, were we good friends before? Shiyue smiled. Of course. We grew up together, we're the best of friends. Have you forgotten? Xie Shiyun frowned. She had no impression of anything Shiyue was saying, but she could sense that Shiyue was sincere, so she decided to trust her words. Then, can you tell me about our past? Xie Shiyun asked earnestly. Shiyue happily agreed and began to recount the wonderful times they had spent together. As Shiyue spoke, some blurry images gradually began to surface in Xie Shiyun's mind. Though they were still incomplete, she could feel the deep friendship between them. Xie Shiyun's heart filled with anticipation, hoping she could recover all her memories soon and reclaim their lost friendship. "It's okay, take it slow. You'll remember everything about yourself," she said, patting Xie Shiyun's shoulder with a small smile. After class, Shiyue held her hand the whole way, telling her about all the things that had happened at the university while she was away. She tried to recall the past here, but her memories were hazy and unclear. She truly felt as if she were in another world, surrounded by unfamiliar people. An unfamiliar environment. Everything felt both real and illusory, just like a dream. "During your absence, Tang Zhou's temper has been truly explosive. No one can control him. Only you can." The Tang Zhou she spoke of was a legendary figure at the College of Engineering and Science, a prominent individual at the New College of Science, a straight-A student, and yet a type of student teachers found impossible to manage. However, due to his family background, teachers couldn't control him either. He often got into fights, sometimes covered in injuries, and was indifferent to everyone. Yet when he faced her, he was a boy experiencing his first stirrings of love. But only she knew that Tang Zhou became this way because of an accident he experienced in his childhood. Back then, Tang Zhou was still an innocent and kind child. However, a severe accident changed his destiny. His parents both died in a car crash, leaving him all alone. From then on, Tang Zhou became quiet and withdrawn, using indifference and violence to conceal his inner pain and helplessness. And she was the only one who could see the fragile side deep within him. He would look at her gently, his eyes filled with love. With just a word from her, he would do anything without hesitation. Even when she was bullied by others, he would rush to protect her without a second thought. However, he never expressed his feelings to her. He was afraid of rejection, and even more afraid of losing her as a friend. So, he chose to silently guard her side until she discovered his feelings. Yet, even now, her mind only held scattered memories. The image of the Tang Zhou she spoke of overlapped and became blurred in her mind. Within the vast group company, there was a spacious and solemn conference room. This was the core of the Fu Group, a crucial large-scale jewelry enterprise. The legend of this company began with the previous chairman Fu. Back then, he, relying on his wisdom and courage, started from scratch and successfully built a top-tier jewelry brand Tlommel. The most striking among them was the unique diamond ring. Said that whoever wore it would be able to accompany their beloved for a lifetime, never separating. This unique design was inspired by Chairman Fu's deeply beloved wife, and this profound affection was passed down through generations over time. Now, this mission had been handed down to Fu Shiyue. As the heir to the family business, he bore the heavy responsibility of carrying forward the painstaking efforts of his ancestors. Every time he gazed at the diamond ring symbolizing eternal love, Fu Shiyue could feel his predecessor's persistent pursuit of beautiful emotions, and from it, draw strength to continue moving forward. In his view, this was not just a career, but a continuation of a belief. In the spacious and bright conference room, a huge screen displayed a dazzling array of jewelry designs, some luxurious and brilliant, others simple and stylish, or uniquely ingenious. Each exuded captivating charm. The people sitting below fixed their gazes on the screen, whispering among themselves. At this moment, a clear, resonant voice sounded. "Hello everyone. I am Qi Chu, the planning director for this event. First, please allow me to review the market size statistics and growth of China's jewelry industry during 2016-2019. For this, I have specially prepared a detailed consumer demand and market competition analysis report. Please look at the screen." With that, Qi Chu gracefully extended her hand and lightly waved it, and a vivid and intuitive chart immediately appeared on the large screen, the current jewelry trend map. She stood at the front, a smile on her face, her eyes firm and confident, and began to eloquently elaborate on her profound insights and unique perspectives on the jewelry industry. As she explained, the people present were gradually drawn in, listening intently. With her professional quality and rich experience, Shiyue analyzed the changes in consumer preferences for jewelry products, market competition trends, and other key factors in a clear and concise manner, and proposed a series of innovative ideas and suggestions. Her words were full of passion and wisdom, as if a fire had ignited the atmosphere of the entire conference room. And Shiyue, sitting in the prominent central position at the very front row of the meeting, rested his left hand under his chin, holding a fountain pen between his right index and middle fingers, rhythmically tapping it lightly on the conference table in front of him. The tapping sound was not loud, but it had a peculiar rhythm, as if resonating with the questions he was contemplating internally. At this moment, his eyes were slightly closed, seemingly completely immersed in his own thoughts, oblivious to everything outside. After the meeting ended, "Shiyue, this plan was excellently presented. I hope it will be as you say. Bring forth your design work to achieve this goal. Don't disappoint me." Shiyue looked at her, encouraging her. "Yes, thank you for your trust, Mr. Fu. I will devote myself fully to my work and live up to your expectations." Her gaze was firm as she looked at the powerful man before her, secretly determined to achieve something significant to prove her worth. Facing Mr. Fu's trusting gaze, she felt a great sense of responsibility, but also full of fighting spirit and confidence. This trust was not only an affirmation of her personal ability, but also an impetus and encouragement. She knew that only through unremitting effort and outstanding performance could she repay Mr. Fu's great kindness and support. In the days to come, no matter how great the difficulties and challenges, she would not shrink back, but face them head-on. She would use practical actions to fulfill her promise and deliver a satisfactory answer to Mr. Fu, because she firmly believed that as long as one put in effort, there would be rewards. As long as one persevered, one would succeed. In the CEO's office, "Mr. Fu, this is an invitation for a tasting event from Mr. Wen of Shengqi." The assistant placed an invitation on the desk. Xiao Yun was Shiyue's assistant and also a good friend he had known since childhood. "You absolutely cannot miss this jewelry tasting event. Shengqi has clearly expressed their hope for your presence. This exchange and learning opportunity might become a key turning point for our company to break through its current predicament. Moreover, in the meeting just now, I deeply felt that what that female designer said was extremely inspiring and reasonable. If we can follow her suggestions and make slight adjustments and improvements based on our original designs, we might truly be able to turn the tide and completely change the current situation and landscape. This is undoubtedly a rare opportunity that cannot be missed." He remained silent, deep in thought. He stood up and looked out at the tall buildings, hands in his pockets, possessing a king-like demeanor. "If the current predicament can be smoothly resolved, then I might as well try the method she proposed. However, you should also understand that any decision comes with a certain degree of risk. Therefore, before making a final decision, I must have a clear and comprehensive understanding and evaluation of her true ability and level, and then weigh the pros and cons based on the actual situation, consider carefully, and use this as an important basis for whether to adopt her suggestion. After all, caution is the parent of safety. Ayun will be out of school soon. Send the driver to pick her up," he urged Xiao Yun. "Shiyue, I never realized before, you're quite the romantic. Now that Xie Shiyun is by your side, you don't need me anymore, do you? You're a man who forgets his friends when he sees a pretty face. TSK, TSK. He looked at Shiyue, shaking his head helplessly. Shiyue completely ignored what he said, because he knew very well that today was incredibly significant for the one he loved. It was her 18th birthday coming-of-age ceremony. Therefore, he absolutely had to give her a super grand gift today to leave her with an unforgettable memory. At this moment, he held tightly to the object in his hand, as if it were the most precious treasure in the world. In fact, this item was the meticulously prepared birthday gift, carrying his endless love and blessings for her. He secretly made up his mind to make this gift an eternal souvenir in her life, so she would forever remember this special day. At Crescent Bay Villa, after Xie Shiyun had washed up, she put on a loose nightgown and came into the living room, idly scrolling through her phone. The nightgown was light and soft, like sheer gauze, gently brushing against her fair and delicate skin. The hem of the skirt draped like flowing water, revealing elegance and grace. The neckline of the nightgown was slightly sensual, subtly exposing her slender neck and delicate collarbone, exuding captivating charm. Why isn't he back yet? She glanced at the clock in the living room. It was already 9:30 p.m. I wonder where he went to enjoy himself, she mumbled softly. Finally, after a while, the front door opened, and Shiyue returned. She stepped lightly, a gentle smile blooming on her face like a blossoming flower, walking forward to greet him. Her eyes revealed endless care and anticipation, as if a wife was anxiously waiting for her husband to return home. She casually placed her hand on his broad, firm shoulder, saying with a playful tone, Shiyue, why are you back so late? You usually come home very early. Were you on a secret date? There must be some unspeakable secret here. After speaking, she mischievously winked at him, a sly smile on her lips. She stared intently into his eyes, as if trying to find some clues from his gaze. However, he just smiled faintly, without offering much explanation. This couldn't help but stir a ripple in her heart, making her secretly ponder the real reason for his late return. He reached out and gently patted her adorable little head, muttering, "What kind of messy things are you thinking about all day? You're still slowly recovering your memory. Don't think too much about messy things." However, this seemingly gentle action caused her a pang of pain, making her cry out in surprise. She frowned, a hint of displeasure flashing in her eyes. But more was confusion. She clearly wasn't injured, so why did it hurt so much? Was it because he hit her too hard? Looking at his nonchalant expression, Xie Shiyun felt a bit wronged and helpless. "Ayun, happy birthday," he said softly and tenderly, his gaze fixed on the woman before him, his eyes full of deep affection and doting love. "I'm sorry I came back so late. I truly apologize. I will definitely pay attention to the time from now on and won't make you wait so patiently again." He lowered his head apologetically, his voice tinged with guilt. Following that, he slowly extended his palm, carefully unfolding it. Before her, a uniquely exquisite necklace was revealed. The chain shimmered with a faint yet captivating light, like the brightest stars in the night sky. Upon closer inspection, the necklace was also embedded with a tiny diamond, crystal clear and radiating a dazzling glow. Even more surprisingly, the pendant was engraved with an English word, Tlommel. Her eyes widened as she gazed at the gift in his hand in disbelief, a slight gasp escaping her throat. This. At that moment, time seemed to freeze. She was touched by this sudden surprise, an indescribable feeling of emotion and joy surging within her heart. This necklace was not only beautiful but, more importantly, it represented the meaning, Tlommel. Its abbreviation came from the English phrase, the love of my life, meaning the love of my life, my lifelong beloved. He gently picked up the necklace, walked behind her, and placed it on her elegant, slender neck. The moment the metal touched her skin, a slight chill came over her, but it was quickly enveloped by the warmth surging within her. Shiyue broke the current atmosphere, looking at her deeply and very gently, saying, "Shiyun, I like you." These 4 words encompassed all his feelings for her. His usual calmness and rationality vanished completely before the woman he loved. The one standing before him was not a young girl. She was clearly a woman. Xie Shiyun was so stunned she stood rooted to the spot like a block of wood, unmoving. She couldn't believe what she had heard, and at that moment, she couldn't articulate what kind of feelings she had for him. He had taken her in since childhood, and in her heart, he had always been like an older brother. At this moment, some vague memories suddenly flashed in her mind, as if they didn't belong to her, yet they had truly happened. What exactly was the past between Shiyue and Xie Shiyun? At first, her memories had not returned. They overlapped ceaselessly, causing a splitting headache. She could only lie down, pulling the covers over her head. This night was destined to be a sleepless one. "Yin, what's wrong with you today? You look listless. Didn't you sleep well last night?" She nodded. Yesterday, her mind was full of jumbled memories, and she only slowly fell asleep in the latter half of the night. She woke up shortly after with dark circles under her eyes. As she thought about it, her face turned red, and Xie, who was beside her, saw it and stared intently at her. "Yin, are you secretly dating behind my back? Your face is so red, like a ripe apple." She gave a mysterious smile. Oh, I know. Are you with Tang Zhou now? Gu Jieyue often teased her daily. No such thing. I just had a headache yesterday and didn't sleep well. Hearing her say she had a headache. What's wrong? Is it serious? Do you need to go to the hospital? She asked with a worried expression. It's nothing. I might just not have rested well these past 2 days, Xie Shiyun said with a forced smile. That's good. If you still feel unwell, you must go see a doctor. Gu Jieyue still urged worriedly. Yes, I will. Just then, the class bell rang, interrupting their conversation. Xie Shiyun turned back to her seat, and Gu Jieyue's gaze followed her, her eyes filled with concern. The two were close friends. Gu Jieyue, the daughter of the Gu group, held a respected status but was devoid of arrogance and had a broad-minded nature. Thereafter, they became good friends, often sharing common topics at school, and were willing to share both joys and sorrows with each other. She was the person Xie Shiyun trusted most, apart from Fu Shiyue. Yun, have you remembered anything? Xie Shiyun shook her head. I feel these things are both familiar and strange. Some figures overlap in my mind, very blurry. You hadn't come to school for a long time before. I wanted to go find you. When I got to your house, Fu Shiyue wouldn't let me in, saying you were in a coma and couldn't be visited. So I left. Now I see you're back, but I can't quite remember. It's so strange. It's okay, there's plenty of time. I'll find my memories. In fact, she might not belong to this world. She was an online fiction writer who had forgotten to turn off the gas, leading to a gas leak, after which she fell into a coma. When she woke up again, she found herself in an unfamiliar world. Subsequently, she lost her memory. This was a story that happened within the novel's plot, and now she was experiencing these events herself. Oh, right. Yun, you haven't seen Tang Zhou for so many days. I'll take you to see him. You two should meet. It started to rain, and the two of them held umbrellas. As they spoke of him, he slowly walked towards them, appearing before their eyes. Having not seen her for so many days, he had become utterly dispirited. After all these days, he finally saw the woman he had longed for day and night. He stood before her, and it was as if the world had stopped, leaving only the two of them. After a while, Shiyun, you're finally back, I thought. His gaze fixed on her face, sparse, broken glints in his dark eyes. I finally see you again, Xie Shiyun. In a daze, she had an illusion, her expression slightly stunned. Staring at the umbrella in her hand, she walked forward uncontrollably, as if it wasn't her own conscious will. I can't remember some of my memories, but I know who you are. You are Tang Zhou. The rain continued to fall hazily from the sky. During class, Xie Shiyun was slumped over her desk, listless. Her stomach was faintly aching. She felt her aunt had come to visit, and the pain was unbearable. This class was taught by Su Nan, the demon math teacher. In his class, anyone who dared to slack off had to run 10 laps around the track, which he claimed would both strengthen the body and improve focus. Xie Shiyun, are you sick, slumping over your desk like that? If you're sick, go see a doctor immediately, or are you just trying to be lazy again? His loud voice made everyone in the classroom look at her, instantly making her the center of attention. Teacher, I have a special situation. Her face was pale and weak. She looked very frail. In his eyes, however, she was faking illness to skip class. Since you're not sick, go run 20 laps around the track to clear your head. He walked to her side, pulled her up, and started walking her out. Don't even think about coming back to class until you've finished running. The door was heavily slammed shut. Her abdomen throbbed faintly. Truly, these relatives were going to be the death of her. She believed she had good health and that her physique would improve with more exercise. She felt pain because she hadn't been exercising. On the vast track, her small figure ran lap after lap. Have you heard? That Xie Shiyun from Class 8 is really miserable. She was punished by the man-eating flower to run 20 laps on the track. Oh my God, 20 laps? Can she even handle that? Meanwhile, Tang Zhou was standing nearby, listening to them. Hearing these words, he felt uneasy and immediately rushed through the crowd to the track to see her. Sure enough, when he arrived at the track, his gaze fell upon a figure running. She felt her energy draining, and her stomach hurt more and more. He moved to her side, forcefully pulled her, and said in a deep voice, You can't run anymore. You won't be able to continue. He stared at her, seeing her clutching her abdomen, her face as white as paper, and cold sweat beading on her forehead. Look how pale your face is. If you keep this up, you'll collapse. She pulled her hand back. I don't need you to tell me what to do. I can do it. She wanted to continue running. She had only run 20 meters when she gradually lost consciousness. Shiyun, in the hospital. The patient has a severe stomach condition, coupled with her menstrual period, and strenuous exercise led to her collapsing from exhaustion. She'll be fine after sleeping for 3 or 4 days, so the family can rest assured, the doctor said to Shiyue as he emerged from the ward. At this moment, the man's expression was grim. I'm her family. She should be fine, right? She's fine. Don't worry. After giving some instructions, the doctor left. Afterwards, Tang Zhou was also waiting outside the ward. Seeing Shiyue come out, he immediately wanted to go in to check on her, but was blocked at the doorway by him. He grabbed Shiyue's sleeve. Tell me, did Shiyun's collapse have anything to do with you? If you caused her to faint, I won't let you off. He then grabbed his collar. Hey, can you be reasonable? What's my relationship with her? Would I treat her like that? It was the school teacher who treated her that way, punishing her by making her run. You'd better watch what you say. Hearing this, Shiyue suddenly raised his eyes and looked at him with sharp gaze. Tang Zhou, not to be outdone, looked back at him and said, I'm telling you, in school, I'm protecting her. Who dares touch her? A hospital nurse walked over. This is a hospital. Please speak quietly and don't disturb other patients' rest. If you want to fight, take it outside. After he let go, Shiyue's hostility towards the man before him intensified, especially the phrase, what's my relationship with her? Which made him even more suspicious. Could his relationship with Shiyun be very good? That day he had expressed his feelings to her, but she hadn't given a positive response. He wondered if it was because of this person in front of him. Thinking this, his animosity towards him grew even stronger. You can go. I'm here, I'll watch over Yun, he said, his face returning to its cold expression. Who are you? What right do you have to call her so intimately? Because my relationship with her is not something an outsider like you can compare to. Get lost. He wanted to step forward. Tang Zhou was then forcibly escorted out by Shiyue's assistant. Shiyue patted down his clothes and walked into the ward. He sat carefully beside her, observing her appearance. She looked a little frail in her hospital gown. Her refined face had delicate features, and the touch of redness on her lips stood out starkly against her slightly pale complexion. He looked at her lips, lowered his head, and kissed her, his movements very gentle, fearing he might startle her. He caressed her hand. You are my wife, Shiyue's wife. I won't let anyone bully you, nor will I allow anyone to covet what's mine. He looked at her like that, a slight smile on his lips. Yun, have you forgotten? When you were little, you already put your handprint on a document, agreeing to be my wife. We signed an agreement. You are my rightful wife. I originally wanted to tell you all this on your birthday, but you never gave me an answer. I thought you were afraid it might affect your studies, so I didn't say anything more, wanting to find a better time to tell you. But today I just learned about the intentions of the person who brought you to the hospital. I absolutely won't allow anyone to take you away. He gently caressed her face. Shiyue quietly stayed by Xie Shiyun's side. Xie Shiyun's fingers trembled slightly. Her consciousness was still hazy, and she slept peacefully. I will always be by your side. I always have been, and I always will be, never leaving you, he said, looking affectionately at her as she slept. She had a dream. In the dream, her parents took her to an amusement park for a day. That day was the happiest she had ever been, and she even bought her favorite Pikachu. They were preparing to drive home when, on the way, the car suddenly lost control, couldn't brake, and couldn't stop. With a loud bang. Don't go. Don't leave me. Don't abandon me. Please. She desperately clutched Shiyue's hand. He soothingly stroked her hair. Hush, I'm always here. I haven't left you. I haven't abandoned you. I'm so hot. So hot. Her forehead was covered in fine sweat. Her face was flushed red, and her body suddenly grew hotter and hotter, as if a ball of fire was burning inside her, a raging inferno. It was so uncomfortable. Her brows furrowed tightly. He reached out to touch her forehead, only to find it astonishingly hot. She had a fever. He quickly called the doctor. The doctor gave her an antipyretic injection. Mr. Fu, your wife is fine now. She just needs good rest, and also attention to her stomach. Thank you, doctor. I will take good care of her. I'm sorry to trouble you. After he tirelessly cared for her for 5 days, she finally woke up. She saw Fu Shiyue beside her and immediately hugged him. Fu Shiyue, I've missed you so much. I've missed you so much. You're finally here. He hugged her back tightly. Silly girl, do you know how much you scared me? Mr. Fu, there's an urgent document here that needs your signature, you. Shiyun burst in without knocking, unexpectedly stumbling upon the sight of the two of them embracing. He was very perceptive. Mr. Fu, my apologies, I'll get out immediately. The two exchanged a smile. Have you been taking care of me without sleeping? Your dark circles are so much worse, aren't they? He pinched her cheek. Yes, so quickly make it up to me. Then you'll have to wait until I figure out what to do. Why are you so impatient? All right. You rest well. I'll handle everything at school, don't worry, okay? She nodded, At the ward door, Shiyun grinned at him. Are you done settling things? Why are you talking so much today? Don't you have an urgent document to deal with? Give it to me for signing, he said, adjusting his tie. He signed it with 2 swift strokes. How about the matter I told you to handle? It's all taken care of. The person who bullied our sister-in-law has already received their deserved punishment. Such a person is completely unfit to be a teacher. I want him to disappear from the teaching profession forever and make his life miserable. Regarding education, Sunan had been severely dismissed and punished, with a declaration that he would never be qualified to be a teacher. As a teacher, failing to properly educate students and instead using corporal punishment as a method was simply an anti-example of education. The second day after Xie Shiyun was discharged from the hospital, she had been waiting in the living room for Fu Shiyue to come home all evening. She had something she needed to say to him. He, meanwhile, had been dealing with company matters until late. When he finally returned home, he saw a small figure sound asleep on the sofa. He gently lifted her into his arms, but the movement woke her. She sat up in a fluster. Fu Shiyue, I accidentally fell asleep in the living room. It's so late. Why are you in the living room instead of your own room? Silly girl, he said, looking at her. Fu Shiyue, Auntie Fong just told me you haven't been home these past few days, that you've been at the hospital taking care of me. You. She took his hand, her eyes filled with gratitude. Thank you for looking after me day and night, for letting your work pile up and making you come home so late. I'm so sorry for causing you so much trouble. She paused, as if wanting to say more but hesitating. Fu Shiyue watched her quietly, his gaze gentle and firm. Finally, she took a deep breath and summoned her courage. Actually, I've wanted to tell you for a while now. I've felt your care and affection. I don't know what the future holds, but I hope we can walk this path together. Before she could finish, Fu Shiyue suddenly interrupted her. He pulled a small red booklet from his pocket and gently handed it to her. She looked closely and realized it was a marriage certificate. Yun, Fu Shiyue said with a smile. I've already made the preparations. From this day forward, you are my wife. No matter what difficulties or challenges we face, we will face them hand in hand. She covered her mouth in astonishment, her eyes slowly welling with tears. In that moment, she felt as if she were in a dream. Everything was too beautiful to be real. Fu Shiyue held her hand tightly and pulled her into his embrace, whispering, Trust me, I will love you well and give you a happy home. In his warm embrace, she felt a sense of security and sweetness she had never known before. Her eyes widened as she stared in disbelief at the document before her. Emblazoned on it was a photo of the two of them, her and Fu Shiyue. Was this the legendary marriage certificate? My God, she couldn't believe her eyes. What on earth was going on? She was only 19. How could she suddenly be a married woman? It was too inconceivable, too shocking. Can you please explain what's happening? We're actually married, she stammered, her voice filled with bewilderment and confusion. The truth was, Fu Shiyue had arranged everything in secret as soon as she turned 18. He had originally planned to tell her on her birthday, but every time he brought it up, she would be evasive and never give him a clear answer. So he decided to wait. Unexpectedly, what he ended up waiting for was for her to fall into a coma. During those difficult days, he had meticulously cared for her for a whole week, devoting his entire being to her. His care for her was absolute and pure, a deep affection that would last a lifetime. He only wanted to treat her well, to spoil her, and to be with her until they grew old. At this thought, the corners of his mouth lifted slightly, his eyes shining with a bright, warm light, revealing a gentle smile as warm as a spring breeze and as brilliant as the sun. From the moment I first saw you, it felt as if time had stopped and the world contained only the two of us. I knew then that you were different. You are the family I chose for myself, a sanctuary that gives me endless peace and happiness. My wife. Hearing this intimate term of endearment, her cheeks instantly flushed a deep red, like ripe apples. The last two words, in particular, made her so shy she wished she could find a hole to crawl into. Yet, the joy in her heart surged like a tidal wave, because she loved him deeply, too. At this moment, they finally understood each other's hearts. This love had long been deeply rooted. I can forgive you for secretly getting the marriage certificate behind my back, but you can't deceive me like this again. You have to tell me about something so important, she said softly, a hint of helpless acceptance in her voice. How could Shiyue not understand the meaning behind her words? This was clearly her tacit acceptance of their status as a married couple. At this thought, he was overcome with an uncontrollable joy. He instinctively reached out, gently cupped her beautiful face, and slowly leaned in to press a tender and passionate kiss upon her lips. Swept up by his passion, she actively responded to his fervent kiss. The two kissed, lost in the moment, as if time had stood still and the world consisted only of them. Their heartbeats intertwined, composing a beautiful melody. Their breathing grew heavier, yet it was filled with sweetness. At this moment, Xie Shiyun was also completely intoxicated, clinging tightly to Shiyue's strong, solid body, as if she never wanted to let go. Xie Shiyun had never experienced such a wave of emotion, as potent as wine and as fiery as flames. It was like a bolt of lightning streaking across the night sky, instantly igniting the long-dormant desires and hopes in her heart. Was this what they called first love? It had come so suddenly and without warning, catching her off guard, yet leaving her utterly captivated. Right now, Xie Shiyun was like a child lost in a sea of flowers, surrounded by endless fragrance, completely mesmerized. Her gaze involuntarily followed his figure, her heart accelerating with his every smile. Her thoughts drifted far away with his every word. The feeling was both new and strange, but also endlessly alluring. All right, be good. Get some rest. We'll have breakfast together tomorrow, he said, preparing to turn and leave. But just then, Xie Shiyun suddenly called out to him. Shiyue, does this mean we're official now? Hearing this, Shiyue stopped and turned back to look at her, a hint of a smile in his eyes. He slowly approached her and said softly, Silly girl, what are you thinking? We have a marriage certificate. We're husband and wife, what do you think? As he spoke, he reached out and tapped her on the forehead. Xie Shiyun froze for a second, a blush rising on her cheeks. She looked down, fiddling with her fingers, and said shyly, I didn't mean it like that. I just wanted to know, are we, like this, truly together? Shiyue gazed at her shy, adorable appearance, and his heart stirred. He raised a hand and gently cupped her chin, lifting her head to meet his gaze. Then he locked his intense eyes on hers and said in a deep, magnetic voice, I love you, Shiyun. I want you to be mine forever and ever. Before she could respond, he swiftly wrapped an arm around her waist, pulling her tightly into his embrace. Then, he strode into her room with firm, powerful steps and gently laid her down on the soft, comfortable bed. He then sat beside her, placing a warm, broad hand on her shoulder to let her nestle into his strong, reliable embrace. His deep, fiery eyes stared into hers, full of sincerity and devotion, as if trying to see into every corner of her soul. I, Shiyue, solemnly swear here and now, before heaven and earth, the sun, moon, and stars, if I ever let Iyun suffer the slightest grievance or any harm, then may I be cast into the endless darkness of the 18 levels of hell, never to be reborn for all eternity. His voice was low and steady, carrying an unshakable resolve. However, Just as he was about to continue with more impassioned vows, he was suddenly cut off. She shot out a slender hand and covered his lips. The next moment, their lips met in a fiery, burning kiss. He instinctively cradled the back of her head as their bodies fell back, and the room was instantly thrown into a state of beautiful disarray. At this moment, he was in the prime of his life at 27, while she was like a newly bloomed flower at only 19. At 18, Shiyue had rescued Xie Shiyun, the sole survivor of a car crash. His sharp eyes looked at her as he said with unquestionable authority, "I'll take you with me. I'll give you a home." Their meeting was fated. Shiyue woke up early. He leaned on his side next to her, quietly watching her sleep. She looked like a peaceful, well-behaved child, sleeping soundly. His fingers trembled slightly, as if filled with endless tenderness and longing, as they gently touched her delicate, jade-like face. His movements were extremely light, afraid of startling the sleeping beauty. As his fingertips made contact with her skin, a jolt shot through him, and he couldn't help but lose himself in the moment, murmuring, "Shiyun, everything will be all right from now on." Afterward, with light, swift movements, he put on a white shirt, layered a black suit jacket over it, and dressed in suit pants and leather shoes before walking out the door. "Young master, there's something I want to say, but I'm not sure if I should. You might get angry." Auntie Fong, the housekeeper who looked after both Shiyue and Xie Shiyun, voiced her confusion. She had served them for years, caring for them since they were young. "Miss, since she woke up from the car accident, her personality is completely different. It's like she's become another person." After all, the Xie Shiyun of the past was nothing like she was now. Hearing Auntie Fong's words, Shiyue whirled around, his gaze as cold as ice. "The fact that she woke up is the best possible outcome. Do not bring up the past in front of her. If I find out from her that you've said anything, you can leave." A complex, indescribable emotion laced his words. He turned to go, but then stopped and added, "Also, report anything she does to me immediately." Auntie Fong nodded. "Yes, sir. I understand." Xie Shiyun woke up around noon and stretched languidly. It was the best sleep she'd had in her entire life, and what's more, it was with him. "Knock, knock, knock. Miss, the congee I made for you is ready. Please come eat it while it's hot." She changed into simple loungewear and casually gathered her long hair into a neat, simple ponytail. Opening the door, she saw Auntie Fong standing there with a bowl of congee. She smiled faintly. "Thank you, Auntie Fong. I'll be down to eat after I wash up." "Very good." As she ate in the living room, Auntie Fong would occasionally cast her gaze upon her. Her eyes seemed to hold 1,000 words, yet at other times it felt like a casual glance. Whenever this happened, she felt a strange sense of nervousness, wondering what Auntie Fong was thinking. Sometimes, Auntie Fong would watch her silently, a faint sadness in her eyes. Other times, she wore a thoughtful expression, as if lost in memories of the past. When this occurred, she would try to avoid Auntie Fong's gaze, but couldn't help her curiosity, wanting to uncover more from those deep eyes. After breakfast, she quickly got ready and headed to school. She had neglected her studies somewhat during the holidays, and with graduation approaching, she really needed to buckle down. "Yun, are you still in contact with Tang Zhou lately?" Gu Jiyue asked, her face full of gossip, as she dragged Shiyun to a small shop to buy snacks after class. All the way there, she chattered incessantly, making Shiyun's head ache. "Since the day I was punished with running, I saw him on the sports field. Classmates say he took a long leave for something, and I haven't been able to contact him either." She indicated that she didn't know and couldn't reach him. "You can't possibly not know about Tang Zhou's feelings for you." Before she could finish, Shiyun interrupted her. "Jiayue, I only have a friendship with Tang Zhou. There are no other feelings. So, please don't tease me about him anymore. It's nothing, and if word gets around, it won't be good for either of us, don't you think?" Her words, like a sharp sword, fell into Tang Zhou's ears, who was standing right behind her, word for word. He stood there motionless, just gazing at her back, mercilessly piercing that subtle veil and clearly exposing the relationship between her and Tang Zhou before everyone. With a firm and resolute tone, she declared a fact to everyone. She had no romantic feelings for Tang Zhou whatsoever. They maintained only a friendship, nothing more. Her eyes revealed a sense of determination. This clear declaration not only showed her inner honesty, but also her decisiveness and rationality regarding emotional matters. Every word of hers was like a nail, deeply hammered into his heart. Shiyun, how could you be so heartless? He widened his eyes, looking at the woman he once deeply loved with a face full of disbelief. Pain and anger surged in his heart like a tide, making him almost unable to breathe. They had shared so many wonderful times, laughed, cried, and struggled together. But now, she was so resolutely determined to leave him, which filled him with despair. He tried to convince himself it was just a nightmare, but the cruel reality kept reminding him it was all over. Tears blurred his vision, and her figure grew distant, making him feel as though they were drifting further and further apart. Hearing a slight sound behind her, her heart tightened, and she instinctively turned her head. She saw him standing there quietly, motionless like a statue, several steps away from her. Sunlight filtered through the gaps in the leaves, casting dappled light and shadow on him. His figure appeared somewhat desolate and lonely, as if he were the only person left in the entire world. And at this moment, the distance between them felt so vast, as if an unbridgeable chasm separated them. She gazed at him, her eyes revealing a complex emotion. There was surprise, doubt, and even a faint, almost imperceptible hint of expectation. However, he remained silent, just silently watching her, as if trying to read something in her eyes. Time ticked by minute, and the air was filled with a suffocating silence. Finally, she took a deep breath and broke the stillness. Why are you here? Her voice trembled slightly, tinged with a hint of nervousness. After a long silence, he left. Ian, are you still thinking about what just happened? Actually, I don't know what to say. Oh, I just remembered. We have a spring outing this Wednesday. Are you interested in coming along? He said, gently patting Ian's shoulder, his eyes revealing a hint of expectation and concern. Sunlight filtered through the gaps in the leaves, casting dappled light and shadow on them, as if echoing his invitation. Ayun slightly raised her head, looked at his warm smile, and a surge of emotion welled up in her heart. After a moment of silence, she slowly nodded, indicating her willingness to go. The two exchanged smiles, both seemingly full of anticipation for the spring outing. No problem, we can finally relax a bit this time. As graduation approached, the scent of youth permeated the campus like the fragrance of flowers in a summer breeze. The girls who had once shared time together decided to hold a special gathering to put a perfect end to their precious high school years and leave behind unforgettable and beautiful memories. Xie Shiyun returned home with light steps, her heart full of anticipation and excitement. She quickly washed up, then changed into a snow-white nightgown, looking pure and charming like a fairy. Next, she carefully walked towards the door of his study, gently pushed it open, and poked out a small, cute head. However, just as she stepped into the study, a strong hand suddenly reached out and grabbed her tightly. Unprepared, she was dragged into the room, her body pressed against the wall. Looking closely, it was Shiyue. He propped his other hand against the wall, his eyes filled with fiery passion and deep affection, a teasing smile playing on his lips. Little girl, sneaking into my study so late, and wearing this tempting nightgown, are you missing me? Xie Shiyun's cheeks instantly flushed crimson, like ripe apples, her shyness evident. She tried to push away the domineering man in front of her, but he was too strong, and she, a delicate woman, simply couldn't resist him. She could only stammer, Shiyue, don't misunderstand. I actually have something to tell you. Look, her voice grew softer and softer, her gaze shifting, daring not to meet his burning eyes. The atmosphere instantly became exceptionally ambiguous and tense, as if time itself had frozen. No, he flatly and decisively refused. He knew very well what she wanted to say, but he simply couldn't agree. He couldn't allow his woman to be with another man. I haven't even said anything, and you just directly rejected it, she complained, pouting her cherry-like lips in displeasure. Shiyue understood in his heart, knowing what she was about to say. She merely wanted to gain his permission to attend that gathering. In fact, he had already heard about this matter. Furthermore, after she fainted earlier, and Tang Zhou appeared before her, Shiyue, understanding Tang Zhou's true intentions towards Xie Shiyun, which mirrored his own, had specifically sent someone to investigate and learned that a boy named Tang Zhou, a classmate of Yun's, harbored romantic feelings for her. What made him even more wary was that Tang Zhou was not simple. Moreover, Tang Zhou's appearance before her was definitely not so simple. He was the heir to the Chuangxi group. He approached her with a purpose, yet unfortunately, she had never realized any of this. She always innocently regarded Tang Zhou as an ordinary person with no background. Not only that, but Tang Zhou was also one of her closest friends, often appearing in her life alongside Gu Jieyue. You must stay away from that guy named Tang Zhou. He is definitely not as simple and harmless as you think. His acquaintance with you surely hides some ulterior motive, Fu Shiyue said with a resolute tone. After saying this, he unhesitatingly stretched out his arms, wrapped them tightly around the girl's slender waist, and lifted her up forcefully. Then, he strode with firm and powerful steps towards the room. After entering the room, the man gently kicked the door shut, then walked to the bedside. He slowly lifted the soft cotton quilt covering the bed, carefully placing the girl from his arms in the center of the neat bed. As if fearing he might awaken a sleeping fairy, his movements were gentle and full of love. Why do you have such great hostility towards Tang Zhou? If he hadn't taken me to the hospital in time last time, my life would have been in danger. He's just a child from an ordinary family. What value do I have for him to exploit? I've known him for a long time. Shiyue knows that too. Hearing this, his eyes darkened, a cold glint flashed, and he stared into her eyes, saying in a hoarse voice, "Yun, you are still too naive. Both he and I are men. His feelings for you are like my feelings for you. Do you understand? You can know a person's face, but not their heart. He is definitely not as ordinary as you imagine." She wasn't a child anymore. He told her to trust him, but did she not even have the right to make friends? I don't understand. What's so unordinary about him? Xie Shiyun retorted. Fu Shiyue frowned, about to explain, when his phone suddenly rang. He picked up the phone and walked to the window to answer the call. Xie Shiyun took the opportunity to sit up, her mind a tangled mess. Of course, she knew Fu Shiyue wouldn't suspect Tang Zhou without reason, but she also didn't believe Tang Zhou had any ill intentions. Fu Shiyue hung up the phone and walked back. Seeing Xie Shiyun's troubled expression, he sat on the edge of the bed, took her hand, and said softly, "There are some things I can't tell you right now, but please trust me, I won't harm you." Xie Shiyun looked at him, and the unease in her heart gradually subsided. She nodded, deciding to temporarily trust his judgment. Xie Shiyun still didn't know the full truth behind it. He carefully lifted her light body, as if holding an incomparably precious treasure in his hands. Then, he gently placed her on the soft, comfortable large bed, fearing he might awaken her sweet dreams. Looking at her peaceful and serene face, his heart was filled with endless tenderness and care. He softly whispered, "Get some rest. I'll come in later." After saying these words, he gently kissed her forehead, then slowly turned and left. Before leaving the room, he didn't forget to look back at her lying on the bed, his eyes full of tenderness and lingering affection. No sooner had he spoken than his figure turned lightly, like a leaf swayed by the wind, and then he strode with elegant yet firm steps slowly towards the study. Entering the study, a tranquil and profound atmosphere enveloped him. He walked straight to the desk, his gaze naturally falling upon the bottle of red wine placed on the tabletop. As if drawn by some mysterious force, he reached out and gently picked it up. The wine bottle felt heavy in his hand, revealing a texture of aged refinement. He carefully gripped the neck of the bottle and slowly pulled out the cork. With a soft pop, the cork detached from the bottle mouth, and a faint aroma of wine instantly diffused. He tilted the red wine, allowing the crystal-clear liquid to flow from the bottle mouth into an exquisite, transparent stemmed glass. The red wine in the glass gently swirled, forming beautiful ripples, like a poetic painting. He gazed at the wine glass in his hand, a glimmer in his eyes. At this moment, time seemed to stand still. He extended his elegant, slender hand, grasped the wine glass, and slowly swirled it, allowing the red wine to fully contact the air, releasing an increasingly rich and mellow aroma. With the subtle movement of his wrist, the red wine formed a small vortex in the glass, as if it were the prelude to a magnificent dance. Finally, he stopped his movements, raised the glass to his lips, first lightly inhaled the intoxicating fragrance, and then took a shallow sip. As the red wine entered his mouth, its rich flavor instantly spread, flowing down his throat like silk, leaving a faint aftertaste. He closed his eyes, carefully savoring the wonderful taste brought by every drop of red wine, feeling the sweetness dance on his tongue, enjoying this tranquility and contentment. At this moment, everything in the world seemed irrelevant to him. Only this glass of red wine could bring him endless pleasure. She was terrified, suddenly flustered and helpless, wanting to push him away, but their strength was disproportionate, and Shiyue remained in a dominant position. You? What? I can't be with you? Then who can? The atmosphere between them plummeted to -10 degrees Celsius. Night fell, heavy clouds gathered, and in an instant, a torrential downpour began. What's wrong? She's burning up. He looked at her worriedly, her forehead covered in beads of sweat, her body uncomfortable and trembling. Young master, the young lady has a high fever that won't go down. I just felt something was off, so I came to tell you immediately, asking you to take the young lady to the hospital. She doesn't like going to the hospital, and she dislikes the smell even more. Get some water, and go buy some fever patches and fever medicine. Yes, young master, I'll go now. Sister Fong immediately left the room to get water, then asked Xiao Xiao to buy fever medicine and patches, which were brought to the room, and then she left. In the room, only she and he remained. Just then, a mysterious woman quietly appeared. She silently watched Shiyue, her eyes revealing endless sorrow and confusion. What was astonishing was that this woman looked exactly like the unconscious Xie Shiyun, as if carved from the same mold. However, her surroundings were an empty void, as if she were trapped in a helpless, isolated alternate dimension. She couldn't escape, only watch everything unfolding before her eyes, her heart filled with despair. This woman was in a virtual world. Others could not enter, nor could she find an exit herself. That's not her. That's not her. I am the real Xie Shiyun, your beloved Ayun, Shiyue. Can you not even recognize me? Her voice was tearful, tears welling in her eyes. The woman had long, lustrous black hair cascading down her back and wore a pure white pleated dress, as beautiful as a fairy. She stared intently at the two people on the screen, her eyes wide, unable to believe what she saw. I am Xie Shiyun. The one lying there isn't me. She's an imposter. She slumped weakly onto the cold ground, her mind tormented. What on earth is going on? Why am I trapped in this horrible place? She murmured to herself, trying to make sense of things, but her thoughts were tangled like a mess of threads. Early in the morning, the Fu family's doorbell kept ringing. Aunt Fong came to open the door. When she opened the door, she saw a tall, handsome young man. She then reluctantly spoke. Young man, did you get the wrong house? You've been pressing the bell incessantly since early morning. Who are you looking for? I'm here to see Ayun. I heard she's sick, and I wanted to check on her. Can I come in? I'm her. Why are you at my doorstep? Shiyue's cold voice rang out from behind Aunt Fong. When the two met, their eyes burned with hostility. He persisted, saying, She's sick. I want to see Ayun. Shiyue stared intently at the person before him and continued. Her top priority now is rest, not disturbance. Do you think she'll get better if you go in and see her? Who do you think you are? He calmly replied. Aunt Fong, from now on, check who it is before opening the door. Not just anyone can enter my Fu family's home. After speaking, he calmly straightened his collar and walked straight into the house without looking back. Tang Zhou secretly clenched his fingers, then could only leave. Evening we bar. In a private room, ambiguously embraced. You want to see her? How is she? He impatiently shook off her hand that was resting on his shoulder. Shiyue stopped me at the door, couldn't get in. I guess she should be fine. Gu Jiayue looked completely different from her daytime appearance. During the day, she wore a simple style school uniform, with a ponytail, a well-behaved female student. But at this moment, she wore a red and white striped short-sleeve top with black collar and sleeve trim, exquisitely tailored, making her look petite and delicate, with a round neckline revealing her beautiful collarbones. Light blue mini shorts showcased her fair, slender legs, and a pair of simple yet stylish red canvas shoes. On her left wrist was a string of small red circular bracelets, shimmering brilliantly in the sunlight. Her hair was loosely piled up, and two silver-white hoop earrings adorned her snow-white earlobes. She watched him with narrowed eyes, her gaze never leaving him. You were far too impulsive and reckless. Acting like that completely exposes your true intentions, doesn't it? In the future, it will probably be even harder to get close to Shiyue and Xie Shiyun. She sighed softly, reaching for the wine glass on the table beside her and tilting her head back to drink it all. The spicy and bitter liquid slid down her throat into her stomach, bringing a burning sensation, but it couldn't quell the deep anxiety and worry within her. Tang Zhou stared expressionlessly at the person before him, his gaze piercing, as if trying to see through her eyes into her innermost thoughts. Time seemed to freeze. After a full 2 seconds, Tang Zhou suddenly extended 2 fingers and firmly pinched the other person's chin. His movement was swift and forceful, catching her off guard. The person whose chin was pinched tried to break free, but found herself unable to move at all. Tang Zhou's gaze grew even darker and colder, like an unfathomable icy pool, sending shivers down one's spine. Immediately after, Tang Zhou spoke coldly. "Are you telling me what to do?" His voice was chillingly cold, carrying an undeniable authority. After saying this, he didn't pause but continued to press. "Do you think you're qualified? Tang Zhou, why do you repeatedly defy me for Xie Shiyun? Do you? Have you really fallen in love with her?" Shiyue pressed him, but he fell silent. He didn't answer her. He couldn't possibly love her, because she was Xie Shiyun. She belonged to Shiyue, the person Shiyue cherished most. Yet, it was Shiyue who caused his family's ruin, leaving him without parents. The best way to get revenge on him was through Xie Shiyun. Shiyue, let's not meet at the bar for a while. Even if we run into each other at school later, we'll act normal, don't let her see anything. Now I need to carefully plan my next steps. She looked calmly at Tang Zhou. Then, please tell me, am I part of your next plan? Tang Zhou didn't answer, but his silence had already given her the answer. Right now, my heart holds only revenge. I have no other emotions. Tang Zhou became an orphan at the age of 7. His parents had passed away. They were just ordinary small business owners. If they hadn't encountered Shiyue, they might have lived a peaceful and happy life forever. Tang Zhou's father was honest and dependable, diligently running their small metal supply shop every day, while his mother was gentle and virtuous, keeping the home in perfect order. The couple supported each other, living harmoniously. Though their lives weren't extravagant, they were full of warmth and tranquility. Their cooperation with Fu Group had a long history, with both sides maintaining a good and stable supply relationship. This close connection made them mutually trusting and supportive business partners. Throughout their long-term collaboration, they successfully met Fu Group's demand for various materials and resources with their excellent product quality and outstanding service attitude, earning high recognition from the other party. By continuously strengthening communication and gaining a deep understanding of Fu Group's business development needs, they were able to promptly adjust supply strategies, providing more targeted and personalized solutions. This not only helped improve Fu Group's operational efficiency and competitiveness, but also brought sustained growth opportunities for themselves. It could be said that this long-standing and stable supply relationship had become one of the important cornerstones for the mutual development and growth of both parties. However, good times didn't last. Fu Group's jewelry was found to contain heavy metal radiation, and as soon as this news broke, it caused an uproar. CEO Fu, please believe us, we absolutely did not cut corners for profit. We produce with integrity. We've cooperated with you for so long, and there have never been any problems before. I assure you, such a problem would never occur. He knelt before Fu Shiyue, pleading bitterly. A hint of ruthlessness flashed in Fu Shiyue's eyes. You also said it yourself. Fu Group has cooperated with you for so long. Who knows if you've had improper thoughts? Later, Tang Zhou's father was imprisoned because of this incident and committed suicide in jail, and his mother, unable to bear the pain, also left him shortly after. I will continue to investigate this matter and will definitely find evidence to make Fu Shiyue pay the price. Tang Zhou's voice was low and firm. Shiyue looked at him, her heart a mix of emotions. She knew Tang Zhou's determination, but also understood the difficulty of this path. I'll stay with you, no matter how long, Gu Jieyue said softly. Tang Zhou paused slightly, looking at Gu Jieyue, a hint of emotion flashing in his eyes, but he quickly regained his composure. Thank you, but this is my battle alone. You don't need to get involved. Tang Zhou turned and left, leaving Gu Jieyue to ponder their complicated emotional entanglement alone. Tang Zhou's eyes were full of pain and resolve. He clenched his fists, his nails digging deep into his palms. I will definitely make Fu Shiyue pay the price, he said through gritted teeth. Gu Jieyue looked at him, a flicker of unease rising in her heart. Tang Zhou, don't be impulsive. We can plan this out carefully, she tried to persuade him. Tang Zhou sneered. Plan carefully? I've waited too long. I'll get my revenge my own way. With that, he turned and left, leaving Gu Jieyue alone in the private room, her emotions complicated. Tang Zhou, life isn't just about revenge. You should look at the people around you, she said, watching his retreating back with sadness. He stood silently in the darkness, his eyes burning with rage. Moonlight fell upon him, illuminating his taut muscles, and the sharp blade gripped tightly in his hand. His breathing was rapid and heavy, as if the whole world could feel his anger. His enemy was the one who had brought pain to his family, the now high and mighty Fu group, Fu Shiyue. His, Tang Zhou's, enemy was Fu Shiyue, the unattainable, powerful CEO of the Fu Corporation. To directly confront such a powerful opponent, with Tang Zhou's current strength, the chances of winning were negligible. Therefore, to exact effective revenge, he needed to find another way. Subsequent investigation revealed that Tang Zhou understood. The most effective way to hit Fu Shiyue where it hurt was to approach someone close to him. And this crucial person was Fu Shiyue's beloved, Xie Shiyun. Xie Shiyun, a woman as beautiful and moving as a poem or painting, possessed not only a beauty that could topple cities, but also a clever and intelligent mind. She was like a dazzling star in the night sky, captivating countless hearts. She was the one Fu Shiyue deeply loved. Tang Zhou knew deeply that if he snatched her from his side, and then cruelly abandoned her, letting him know what true pain was, it would deal a heavy blow to Fu Shiyue. After all, love is often the most vulnerable line of defense in people's hearts. Once this line of defense is breached, even the strongest person cannot avoid falling into an abyss of pain. And so, a meticulously planned revenge scheme began. Dad, Mom, Xiaozhou will definitely avenge you, don't worry. Tang Zhou secretly vowed in his heart. Seeing him like this, Gu Jieyue knew saying more was futile and could only comfortingly pat his shoulder. At the Fu residence, a whole day passed, and the girl remained unresponsive, as if she had lost all perception. Her already burning body temperature rose again, and she began to murmur to herself, her voice so low it was almost inaudible, but upon careful listening, one could distinguish her saying, Fu. Sure. You, where are you? I am Xie Shiyun. The girl lay quietly facing the ceiling, her hands tightly clutching the quilt, her formerly moist lips now dry and cracked, trembling slightly, as if wanting to say something. And Fu Shiyue, who had remained by her side without leaving for a single step, gripped her hand tightly, responding softly. Ayun, I'm here. I've always been by your side, never left for half a step, so you don't need to be afraid. His eyes were filled with endless worry and heartache, wishing he could transfer all his strength to her, so weak before him, to make her recover quickly. He stayed by her side without eating or drinking for a whole day and night, but she showed no signs of improvement. Fu Shiyue looked at the extremely weak person before him with burning anxiety, his brows tightly furrowed. Finally, he could no longer wait, and without hesitation, reached out and pulled back the quilt covering her. Then he carefully lifted her horizontally into his arms, as if holding the most precious and fragile treasure in the world. He walked towards the door with firm and swift steps, each one filled with concern and worry for her safety. The patient needs good rest. She was frightened, and then developed a high fever. How do you, as her boyfriend, take care of your girlfriend? She's been sick, and you're only bringing her to the hospital now. The female doctor looked at the stern-looking man before her, couldn't help but frown, saying, Let her rest well. When she wakes up, eat something light. Fu Shiyue spoke in a hoarse voice. Okay, thank you, doctor. The female doctor shook her head and left helplessly, thinking, young people nowadays really don't know how to cherish those around them. 2 days later, at noon, in the hospital, Xie Shiyun sat quietly on the hospital bed, her clear and innocent eyes looking at Xie beside her. She softly said, "What's wrong? Aren't I fine? It was just a fever. Why are you staring at me like that?" Xie frowned, responding with a worried expression. "Don't you know you haven't been to school for days? I've been so worried about you, not knowing what happened. Hearing you say this today, it turns out your fever and illness were all because." At this point, she suddenly stopped speaking, seemingly realizing that some things should not be continued. After a moment of silence, Xie took a deep breath, trying to change the subject, but her eyes still showed concern for Xie Shiyun. She gently stroked Xie Shiyun's hand, asking with concern, "How do you feel now? Are you better? Do you need me to do anything for you?" Xie Shiyun smiled and shook her head, indicating that she was much better and thanked Xie for her concern. However, a trace of doubt arose in her heart, wondering why Xie would suddenly be here. Could it be that Fu Shiyue told her? "Xie, did Fu Shiyue ask you to come see me?" she asked with difficulty, her voice so faint it seemed a gust of wind could scatter it. Xie nodded silently, a complex emotion flashing in her eyes. "Yes, he called me to come take care of you. If he hadn't called, I wouldn't have known you." She paused, seemingly trying to restrain something, then continued, "Wouldn't have known you'd become like this. Seeing you so weak now, I'm really sad." After speaking, Xie lightly sighed, her gaze falling on the pale, paper-like face on the bed. Just then, the ward door was pushed open, and a figure walked in. Sunlight streamed through the window onto the person, sketching a warm scene. Xie Shiyun looked closely. It was Fu Shiyue. "Are you feeling better?" he said, looking at her. After a while, she hummed in response. "Mr. Fu, since you're here, and I've seen Iyun, I'm relieved. You two chat, I'll go now." Xie stood up, preparing to leave. She glanced at Xie Shiyun, then left. In the room, only she and Fu Shiyue remained. He walked over, sat beside her, and reached out to caress her face. She didn't dodge, just stared steadily at him. "I'm sorry." His voice was deep and magnetic, like an ancient string instrument, gently plucking the softest part of her heart. His breath warmly brushed against her earlobe, bringing a strange, tingling sensation. She couldn't help but blush, her heart racing, as if a little deer was leaping wildly in her chest. At this moment, the distance between them was so close that she could clearly feel his body temperature and breath. In just a moment, they could embrace and kiss. This intimate contact made her somewhat flustered, her body involuntarily trembling slightly. She tried hard to control her inner panic and softly said, "Fu Shiyue, this is a hospital." Her voice carried a subtle hint of tension and shyness. She hoped that through this reminder, they would both remain calm and not do anything excessive. After all, this was a public place, and a place that required quiet and order. However, even though she understood these principles, there was an ineffable expectation in her heart, anticipating what would happen next. "Xie Shiyun, what kind of random thoughts are filling your head?" "Iyun, I won't let you suffer like this again." He saw how uncomfortable Xie Shiyun was being sick. If he hadn't scared her that day, she wouldn't have suddenly gotten a fever at night that wouldn't go down. She always disliked the smell of hospitals. "Okay, Fu Shiyue, stop talking. I'm almost completely recovered. Oh, and I have good news. I can be discharged tomorrow. Could you help me with the procedures? I need to go to school first. I've missed a lot of lessons." As she spoke, her eyes revealed concern and eagerness for her studies. Fu Shiyue's face was completely calm. He had already known she would say this, so he spoke lightly. "You can be discharged, but not go to school. I've already arranged leave for you. As for your studies, I've found the best teacher to tutor you at home. You can go to school once you've recovered." She widened her eyes, staring fixedly at the man before her, every word he had just spoken echoing in her ears. These words were like sharp knives, mercilessly piercing her heart. She couldn't believe that the person who had always respected and cared for her would make such a decision behind her back. At this moment, she felt as if she had become a marionette, controlled by someone else. losing her freedom and right to make her own decisions. Anger surged through her like a tide. She bit her lip, trying hard to control her emotions, but her voice still trembled unconsciously. Am I just a puppet by your side now? Can't even make my own decisions, and you have to decide for me. Fu Shiyue. Every word was spoken with exceptional clarity, carrying heavy weight. She clenched her fists tightly, her nails digging deep into her palms, as if only this could slightly alleviate the pain in her heart. Her gaze never left his face, hoping to find a trace of explanation or comfort on that familiar, yet strange countenance. Aren't I telling you now? Xie Shiyun had a speechless expression, muttering to herself. What's the point of saying this now? It's already too late. He's already arranged everything perfectly. What good would resistance do now? He quietly gazed at her, a hint of helplessness and disappointment in his eyes. After a long while, he finally spoke slowly. Ayun, you never used to contradict me. Your temper was always so gentle and compliant. But why have you become so stubborn now? Do you really no longer trust me like before? His voice was deep and magnetic, but the emotions contained within it made one feel incredibly heavy. After he finished speaking, the room fell into a dead silence, as if time had frozen. Xie Shiyun was startled. She didn't know what was happening to herself. Sometimes she felt a strangeness, as if she could perceive her true self, and her current state didn't seem to belong to her. Fu Shiyue picked her up from the hospital and brought her back to Yeshuan, finding her the best private tutor for her studies. In the study, hello, I am the private tutor Mr. Fu hired to help you with your studies. My name is Zhang Yini. You may call me Teacher Zhang, she said expressionlessly, her words revealing an ineffable authority. She wore a pair of exquisite gold-rimmed glasses on her nose, and through the lenses, one could feel the sternness and seriousness in her eyes. Okay, Teacher Zhang. I cautiously nodded in response. As soon as she finished speaking, she quickly pulled out a set of exam papers from her bag, her movements skilled and efficient, as if these papers were already an inherent part of her teaching tools. Immediately after, she gently placed the papers on the desk and tapped the surface with her finger, signaling to begin answering. Please complete the questions on the first and second pages first, so I can understand your current proficiency level and better tailor a suitable study plan for you. Her voice was as calm as water, yet filled with an unquestionable tone. Xie Shiyun nodded, indicating no problem. 2 hours later, Zhang Yini graded the papers and placed the test in front of her. Your foundation is quite good, but you haven't grasped the key points well. So, next, I will tutor you based on your weak areas. She took out 3 more test papers and had her write for another 2 hours. She then looked at her wristwatch. That's it for today? I'll take the papers back to grade them. We'll continue tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Then she neatly packed her things and left. Xie Shiyun looked at the time. It was already 11 o'clock. For some time recently, Xie Shiyun had not been attending school, choosing instead to self-study at home. Gu Jieyue, who usually had a very close relationship with Xie Shiyun, lost her means of keeping track of Xie Shiyun's activities after realizing Xie Shiyun hadn't appeared on campus for several days. As for Xie Shiyun, Gu Jieyue's affection was only 3 parts genuine. The remaining 7 parts were purely for utilitarian purposes. The true motive behind every action Gu Jieyue took was to help Tang Zhou avenge a deep-seated hatred. After all, in Gu Jieyue's heart, only Tang Zhou was worthy of her wholehearted love. She liked Gu Xian and was willing to do things for him. Gu Jieyue's real name was Gu Xian. Gu Xian was once the most dazzling pearl of the Gu family, the beloved daughter that Gu Minglai, of Gu Group, held in the palm of his hand. However, fate played a cruel trick, and in just 2 short years, this favored daughter's life underwent earth-shattering changes. 2 years ago, a sudden turn of events plunged Gu Group into despair, ultimately leading to its bankruptcy. Unable to bear the immense pressure, Gu Minglai chose to end his own life in an extreme way, leaving the lonely and helpless Gu Xian to face this shattered situation. Overnight, Gu Xian lost everything, falling from an enviable pampered young lady to an object of scorn. Those who had once fawned over her scattered, and the relatives and friends who had once shown her every courtesy now avoided her like the plague. At her wits' end, Gu Xian could only swallow her pride and seek help from the uncles who had been close to her father in the past. But to her utter surprise, not a single one of these so-called relatives was willing to lend a hand, not even to grant her an audience. At that moment, Xie truly came to understand the coldness of the world and the unpredictability of human hearts. She was left to wander the streets, as shameful as a rat scurrying across the street. Suddenly, her throat choked up, and she collapsed onto the ground, her lips trembling uncontrollably. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she wept in despair. The heavy rain grew even more torrential, pouring down from the sky as if from an overturned basin. The pervasive white mist resembled a thin veil, shrouding the entire world in a haze. Cars passing by sped past like lightning, their wheels splashing up huge sprays of water, as if trying to break through the rain curtain, leaving only blurry afterimages in their wake. Raindrops incessantly fell, hitting the ground and car windows, splashing countless tiny beads of water like flying fragments of shattered jade. The shadows of people and objects swayed in the water, rippling outwards and then instantly shattering. And not far away, inside a car, a young man quietly observed everything outside the window. He sat casually, knees apart, his body leaning against the backrest seemingly relaxed, yet revealing an indescribable sense of uprightness. He squinted slightly, his brows tightly furrowed, as if contemplating something important. Outside the car, the girl stood alone in the rain, her figure appearing so small and fragile in the downpour. The rain had soaked her completely, making her look disheveled. However, the man inside the car stood in stark contrast to her, one thoroughly drenched, the other spotless. The girl's figure in the rain felt both familiar and strange to him, as if within reach, yet infinitely far. An inexplicable urge welled up within him to protect and comfort her. Finally, unable to suppress the emotional turmoil within, he resolutely opened the car door, unfurled an umbrella, and walked towards the girl. The sky was drizzling lightly. He held a black umbrella and slowly walked towards her. Raindrops gently tapped the ground, making crisp sounds. His steps were steady and firm, as if carrying a sense of mission. When he reached her, he carefully held the umbrella above her head, shielding her from the rain. She raised her head slightly, her gaze meeting his. In that moment, time seemed to freeze, the surrounding world blurred, leaving only the two of them. His gaze was deep and tender, revealing boundless care and affection. She was drawn to his eyes, and an inexpressible surge of emotion welled up within her. In that brief exchange of glances, they seemed to understand each other's innermost thoughts and feelings. A gentle breeze swept by, ruffling her hair and stirring the softest corners of his heart. He quietly watched her, his eyes full of tenderness. And she, in turn, offered a smile, as beautiful and moving as a spring flower in bloom. In this bustling city, they met. "You're completely soaked," he said softly, his voice tinged with a hint of heartache and concern. Then, he slowly extended his hand towards her, a hand long and warm, as if it could offer endless comfort. Xie's eyes widened, and for a moment, she couldn't move. At that instant, time around her seemed to have frozen, and everything became remarkably clear. When she met his gaze, a peculiar sensation surged through her, as if she was gradually being drawn into a deep vortex. The surrounding scene began to blur and distort, but only his gaze remained steady and directly fixed on her. In this chaotic world, his eyes became the sole real and reliable presence. They were like bright stars piercing through layers of mist, illuminating the deepest corners of her heart. It was a seriousness and directness she had never encountered before, making her deeply moved. Faced with such an intense gaze, Xie felt a pang of panic. She tried to avert her eyes or say something to break the awkwardness, but her throat felt constricted, unable to produce a sound. Finally, after much hesitation, she gently placed her hand in his palm. A myriad of thoughts churned in her mind, like a vast and turbulent sea. She recalled past moments, happy and painful memories surging forth. He carefully led her to a luxurious hotel, then softly instructed the staff to bring a set of dry and comfortable clothes, emphasizing that they should be delivered to the room as quickly as possible. Only after the staff had left did he turn to face her, a hint of concern in his eyes. I've seen you in the newspapers. You're Gu Xin, the Gu Group's young lady. His voice was low and magnetic, as if possessing an irresistible charm. After saying this, he slowly walked to the window, silently gazing into the distance, his back looking somewhat forlorn and lonely. Gu Xin listened to his words in silence, a strange sense of emotion welling up within her. This stranger knew her identity and was caring for her so thoughtfully. She couldn't help but feel a touch of curiosity about him, but more than that, gratitude. A moment later, he seemed to sense Gu Xion's gaze, let out a soft sigh, and continued, "My name is Tang Zhou." His tone was as calm as still water, yet it contained boundless sorrow and loneliness. "Gu Xian, we are the same kind of people." It turned out they shared similar fates, losing their closest family members and subsequently becoming orphans. Perhaps it was this shared experience that led them to meet and understand each other through some unseen force. At that moment, the entire room was filled with a quiet yet profound atmosphere, as if time itself had frozen. "I have no relatives left in this world. I am as lonely and helpless as you." Tang Zhou's voice was low and sorrowful, as if carrying endless pain and solitude. Although a long time had passed, the flame of revenge burning deep within him remained unextinguished, fueled by irrepressible rage. She quietly listened to his words, an inexpressible pang of bitterness rising in her heart. Tears welled up in her eyes, but her throat felt constricted, unable to make a sound. She silently walked behind him, wrapped her arms tightly around him, feeling the warmth of his body and his slightly trembling shoulders. "Can I stay with you from now on? I have no other family or friends. Will you take care of me from now on? Don't leave me." Her voice was as soft as a whisper in the breeze, filled with helplessness and pleading. In this moment, she laid all her vulnerability bare before him, hoping for his response and protection. Tang Zhou felt her embrace, his body trembling slightly. He slowly turned around, his gaze fixed on her tear-filled eyes, a complex emotion flickering within his own. He wanted to refuse, for he knew the path ahead was fraught with hardship and difficulty, but seeing her pitiful state, the words of refusal simply wouldn't come out. After a moment of silence, Tang Zhou sighed softly, reached out to stroke her hair, and gently said, "All right, we'll go on together. No matter what we encounter in the future, I won't leave you." She broke into a smile through her tears, her face alight with joy. She tightly held Tang Zhou's hand, as if she had found the anchor of her life. From then on, they would rely on each other, facing unknown challenges and the trials of fate together. Gu Xian changed her name to Gu Zheyue. From that day on, there was no longer Gu Xian of the Gu Group in this world, only Gu Zheyue, who depended on Tang Zhou. Later, after a thorough investigation, Tang Zhou finally discovered a surprising fact. It turned out that Fu Shiyue had always harbored a deeply cherished and exceptionally favored woman in his heart, Xie Shiyun. Even more unexpectedly, this Xie Shiyun was actually studying at the Institute of Engineering. Upon learning this news, Tang Zhou made an immediate decision, not hesitating to follow in her footsteps and enroll in the same institute. At the same time, Gu Zheyue also seemed filled with interest and anticipation for this plan, so the two embarked on this new journey together. Perhaps it was fate's design, but they were coincidentally assigned to the same sub-college. Gu Zheyue, being new, felt both excited and a little nervous. Just then, Tang Zhou considerately comforted her. "Zheyue, since you're in a brand new environment, you should make some good friends, don't you think? That classmate of yours named Xie Shiyun in your class seems very quiet and well-behaved. Why don't you try to interact with her more? I believe you'll become very good friends. How do you know there's a Xie Shiyun in my class? And why do you want me to make more friends with her?" Gu Zheyue stared intently at the person in front of her, her beautiful eyes flickering with confusion and bewilderment. After a moment of silence, she suddenly seemed to realize something, her delicate brows slightly furrowed, and she asked softly, "Do you like that girl?" However, facing her questioning, the other person merely turned around slowly, his gaze cold and indifferent as he swept his eyes over her, then spoke in a tone devoid of emotional bone. "I have no interest in her whatsoever. The reason I want you to become her best friend is entirely because only then can you better assist me in carrying out the next plan. You don't need to know too much about the reasons behind this. It won't do you any good, but you must do as I say, understand? His voice was as cold as frost on a winter night, sending shivers down one's spine. After saying these words, he turned and left again, leaving Gu Jieyue standing there dumbfounded, secretly wondering what he truly intended to do. Gu Jieyue watched his retreating figure and softly murmured, "Okay." Xie Shiyun had always been a loner in class, not making friends with anyone or sharing a desk with others, always sitting by herself in a corner. Her words were indifferent and ruthless, making her difficult to approach. In Gu Jieyue's impression, Xie Shiyun was an introverted, reclusive, and taciturn girl. If Tang Zhou hadn't mentioned someone named Xie Shiyun in their class and asked her to befriend her, she probably would never have noticed this obscure presence. Later, Gu Jieyue became Xie Shiyun's only good friend. She was like a brilliant star, illuminating his lonely inner world. They spent countless wonderful times together, sharing their joys and sorrows. In Xie Shiyun's eyes, Gu Jieyue was a smart, kind, and vibrant girl. She always managed to bring happiness and warmth to Xie Shiyun in her unique way. Whether at school or in life, Gu Jieyue was always by Xie Shiyun's side, giving him support and encouragement. Together, they explored unknown territories and faced difficulties and challenges. Under Gu Jieyue's influence, Xie Shiyun gradually learned how to care for others and understood the importance of cherishing friendship. Meanwhile, Tang Zhou would also learn about her from Gu Jieyue. Her life, everything about her, was under his watchful eye. "You've been getting very close with that girl named Gu Jieyue recently." Just as Xie Shiyun returned home, she saw Fu Shiyue sitting properly on the sofa, looking at her with a grim face and questioning her. Could it be that the two of you have already become best friends who can talk about anything? Then, before she could speak, he stood up and walked towards her step by step. Each step seemed to carry an irresistible force. Complex emotions flickered in Fu Shiyue's eyes, and his low, magnetic voice echoed in the air. "Shiyun, I hope you can be well." In the bustling city of Lancheng, it was almost common knowledge that Xie Shiyun had been adopted by Fu Shiyue since childhood and became the apple of his eye. Their relationship had long surpassed that of mere adoption, resembling a deep family bond and unspoken understanding. Fu Shiyue doted on Xie Shiyun, treating her as his own, holding her in the palm of his hand, showering her with endless love and indulgence. Xie Shiyun, in turn, was full of dependence and reverence for Fu Shiyue. His feelings for her were an open secret, clear for anyone to see, yet only she herself pretended to be oblivious and ignored them. Every time he greeted her warmly or asked about her well-being, she would always stand there expressionless, not even bothering to look him in the eye, and then coldly retort, "Fu Shiyue, stop shedding crocodile tears here. Do you think I'm still as stupid as I used to be? Let me tell you, I've seen right through you long ago." After saying this, she would turn and walk away, leaving him only a resolute and merciless back. Yet, despite such cold treatment, he never gave up hope, continuing to quietly observe her every move as always. The midsummer of Lancheng was stiflingly hot, the sky a clear blue, with white clouds tinged with a hint of agitation. The next day, she came to school. After class, Gu Jieyue, as usual, nonchalantly grabbed her arm and said, "Ayun, let's go. I'll take you for a walk on the sports field." Suddenly, a commotion and noisy cheering erupted from the sports field. "Tang Zhou, come on. Tang Zhou, you can do it." "That's amazing." The shouts drew their attention, so they decided to walk in the direction of the sound to see what was happening. At this moment, the sun was setting in the west, and the evening glow spread across the ground. They followed the crowd into the sports field. Xie Shiyun curiously turned her head to look around, her vision filled with a group of running figures. These figures, both unfamiliar and full of vigor, made her feel an unprecedented, vibrant atmosphere. The golden sunset glow spilled onto the basketball court, illuminating the figure of a young man. Tang Zhou wore a loose jersey, his back drenched in sweat, and the team logo on his chest rose and fell with his rapid breathing. He held the basketball with both hands, the ball shifting restlessly in his grip. His movements were agile and fluid, like a hawk chasing the wind, skillfully using his body's strength and speed to complete one dribble, breakthrough, and layup after another. The game finally ended. He panted wildly like an unbridled wild horse, as if expelling all the air from his lungs. Sweat cascaded from his forehead like a waterfall, soaking his hair and cheeks, but he paid no mind, simply shaking his head casually, letting the sparkling beads of sweat fly through the air. His eyes were full of exhaustion, yet also gleamed with the light of victory. He slowly turned his head, his gaze landing on Xie Shiyun. He advanced with firm and steady steps, each one seeming to carry boundless determination and strength. His gaze was focused and fervent, locked onto her, as if the entire world contained only the two of them. As the distance gradually closed, his figure grew taller and more imposing, exuding an undeniable presence. Finally, he reached her. The distance between them was close enough to feel each other's breath, and time around them seemed to freeze at that moment. She looked up, meeting his deep eyes, and an inexplicable sense of nervousness and anticipation surged within her. Xie Shiyun, my name is Tang Zhou. He introduced himself to her, his voice clear, as if carrying a ray of sunshine. Xie Shiyun froze, a hint of confusion and surprise in her eyes. You? How did you? Countless questions surged in her mind. She had never seen this man before and didn't remember ever telling him her name. Yet, he called out her name so naturally, as if they had known each other for a long time. She couldn't help but curiously examine Tang Zhou in front of her, trying to find some clues in his expression and demeanor. Tang Zhou smiled, his gaze gentle and firm, seemingly seeing through Xie Shiyun's inner confusion. He said softly, "Perhaps this is fate's arrangement, that we should meet here." Xie Shiyun's brows furrowed slightly. She didn't entirely believe Tang Zhou's words. Fate. She never believed in fate. She only believed in her own efforts and choices. But for some reason, facing Tang Zhou's smile and gaze, her heart actually fluttered a little. "How do you know my name?" Xie Shiyun finally couldn't help but ask. Tang Zhou chuckled, his smile as warm as a spring breeze. "It's a secret, but I believe, as time goes on, you will slowly understand. For now, let's just be friends." Xie Shiyun hesitated for a moment, then finally nodded. Although many questions remained in her mind, she felt an inexplicable fondness for Tang Zhou and was willing to be his friend. At this very moment, on the distant continent of Australia, in a spacious yet slightly dim room, a man with scattered black hair falling over his forehead, his face half-lit, half-shadowed in the light, sat quietly on the sofa, holding half a bottle of beer. His gaze was intently fixed on the television screen, where a news report about Fu Shiyue was playing. Fu Shiyue in the image was handsome and elegant, attracting much attention and admiration. However, this man seemed neither surprised nor astonished by any of it. He merely narrowed his eyes slightly, a barely perceptible smile playing on his lips, and idly twirled the dimly glowing ring in his hand. It was as if the report was just a small interlude in his daily life, or perhaps something he had long anticipated. As his fingers deftly moved, the ring spun continuously in the man's hand, emitting a crisp, pleasant sound. Each rotation seemed to tell a secret, making one curious about the hidden story behind it. And the man's eyes grew deeper with each turn of the ring, as if seeing far beyond this small object. His thin, cicada wing-like lips parted slightly, and he said in a cold yet firm voice, "Fu Shiyue, so many years have passed, I'm finally going back. I must reclaim what rightfully belongs to me." After saying this, he unhesitatingly dialed the number he knew by heart. "Anna, immediately arrange the fastest flight from Australia to launching for me. Time is tight, the sooner the better." His tone was exceptionally resolute, as if leaving no room for discussion. From the other end of the phone came a woman's voice, slightly bewildered and concerned. "Avis, are you really sure you want to do this? You've been here for a full 10 years. Why make such a hasty decision all of a sudden?" However, he didn't directly answer her question. After a moment of silence, he slowly said, "Some things I must face and resolve myself. Don't worry, I have my own plans and intentions." Then he hung up the phone. The man's black jacket was casually open, revealing a white shirt underneath, its collar slightly unbuttoned, showing a hint of untamedness. His physique was tall and upright, with subtly defined muscles, exuding a powerful masculine charm. His hair was slightly disheveled, a few strands covering his forehead, yet it did not diminish the sharpness of his gaze, which seemed capable of piercing through one's soul. The corners of his lips curled up slightly, bearing a cynical smile, as if disdainful of the world. But when he looked at you, his eyes revealed a unique focus and passion that made one's heart race. His steps were lazy yet confident, each stride carrying an indescribable charm, as if the entire world was under his control. Shiyue, I'm back. The moment he disembarked, before he even had a chance to catch his breath, he was surrounded by a large group of reporters. These journalists, armed with microphones and cameras, surged forward like a pack of hungry wolves spotting their prey. Shiyue, you've been gone for 10 full years. Are you suddenly returning this time with the intention of coming back to the Fu family? A reporter asked first, his voice sharp and urgent. Shiyue frowned slightly. Faced with so many reporters, he seemed somewhat helpless, yet maintained a calm and composed expression. Has the relationship between you and your brother eased? Or is it still as tense as rumored before? Another reporter pressed, staring sharply at Shiyue. Young Master Fu. Young Master Fu. The shouts from around them rose and fell, with reporters scrambling to ask questions, trying to get some exclusive news from him. Shiyue's expression remained aloof. He walked through the crowd without a word, heading towards the airport exit. Seeing this, the reporters hurriedly followed his steps, unwilling to miss any opportunity. Noisy journalist voices rose and fell, like a swarm of bees buzzing in one's ears, causing a wave of irritation. At the same time, the clicking of cameras continuously sounded, their kacha-kacha filling the air, as if trying to freeze the moment. He slightly furrowed his brow, a feeling of displeasure welling up within him. His large sunglasses obscured his eyes, but they could not hide the dissatisfaction and annoyance on his face. Immediately after, he was seen slowly walking towards a luxurious car, surrounded by a group of burly, mysterious men in black suits. Their expressions were serious, and their steps steady, as if they were on an important mission. His figure stood out among the many men in black, yet also seemed to blend into the surroundings, exuding an inexplicable aura of dignity and dominance. As he approached the car, one of the men in black respectfully opened the door with an elegant and skillful motion. He nodded slightly and gracefully sat inside, like an esteemed monarch. As the door softly closed, the vehicle quickly started, its engine roar breaking the surrounding silence. The wheels spun rapidly, raising a cloud of dust, and the car sped away like a whirlwind. The scenery outside the car window flashed past like movie frames, trees, buildings, and people were all left far behind. The vehicle sped along the road at an astonishing speed, as if trying to escape this world and rush towards an unknown shore. Lawn City, I'm back, he murmured, looking at the scenery outside the car window. 10 years. The woman sitting beside him, dressed in a black dress with long hair cascading over her shoulders, had a hint of confusion and worry in her eyes. She turned and gazed into his eyes, asking softly, Elvis, are you really determined to come back? Then, are we still going back to Australia? He fell silent for a moment, seemingly weighing all possible answers in his mind. Then, he took a deep breath and spoke in a low, firm voice. Anna, I'm not sure if I can truly do it, but I know I must try. I've come back to reclaim everything that belongs to me, not just for myself, but for our future. Only then will you not be forever trapped with me in that lightless place, living a life without hope or sunshine. Do you like that kind of life? That's absolutely not the life I wish to give you. His gaze shimmered with determination and responsibility, as if conveying a message to her. This was an unavoidable choice, and no matter how many difficulties and challenges lay ahead, he would forge forward without hesitation. At the same time, a hint of tenderness and concern also flickered in his eyes, as if asking for her opinion, hoping for her support and understanding. The woman named Anna nodded. Still doing well, brother? I'm back. Shiyue stood at the doorway, his gaze coldly fixed on the man before him. The corners of his lips curled into a subtle smirk, carrying a hint of mockery and provocation, as he declared haughtily, It's been so many years, and I've missed you exceptionally. Time truly flew. 10 full years had passed in the blink of an eye. During these 10 years, Fu Shiling had been living alone in distant Australia. He still remembered being sent away when he was young, full of fear and confusion about the world. Now, he had finally returned, but his heart held only endless resentment. Over these 10 years, Fu Shiling had endured countless hardships and setbacks. He struggled tirelessly in a foreign land, tasting every bitterness to achieve what he had today. Now, he was no longer the child who could be manipulated, but a young man of great strength and confidence. Facing the family who had once abandoned him, the anger in Fu Shiling's heart burned even more fiercely. He wanted everyone to know that he was no longer the weak and easily bullied Fu Shiling of the past. Since you're back, settle down. Do you think the Fu family is a place you can just come and go as you please? Fu Shiyue said to him expressionlessly, his tone steady and devoid of anger, as if he didn't care in the slightest. Fu Shiling, however, showed no fear, straightening his back and meeting his gaze, his eyes firm and icy. The two remained in a standoff, the surrounding air seeming to freeze, filled with tension. Sparks seemed to fly where their gazes met, as if an invisible war was fiercely unfolding. Neither would yield an inch, both holding firm to their positions. All right. Why do you two brothers act like enemies the moment you meet? Why so serious? Fu Haoxing felt utterly helpless looking at his two sons confronting each other. He shook his head and said earnestly to Fu Shiyue, "Shiyue, your brother hasn't been back in 10 years. Now that he's finally returned, you two must get along well." After saying this, Fu Haoxing's gaze fell upon the unfamiliar woman standing beside Fu Shiling, a hint of doubt flashing in his eyes as he asked, "Iling, who is this?" Fu Shiling immediately put his arm around Anna's shoulder, a happy smile spreading across his face, and introduced her proudly. "Dad, she's my girlfriend from Australia. Her name is Anna. I specifically brought her back with me this time to introduce her to you all." Anna smiled and said, "Hello, uncle. Hello, big brother. My name is Anna, and I'm Elvis's girlfriend." Fu Haoxing, standing nearby, nodded politely in acknowledgement upon seeing Anna, showing welcome and respect. Fu Shiyue, however, maintained an indifferent expression, as if completely unconcerned with everything around him. Fu Shiling paid no attention whatsoever to Fu Shiyue's attitude. He walked directly past Fu Haoxing, went to the sofa in the living room, and sat down, casually crossing his legs. One hand rested nonchalantly on the armrest of the sofa. Then, Fu Shiling looked at his father and said firmly, "Father, this time I've returned, and I have no intention of going back to Australia. From now on, I will stay in the Fu family. After all, it's the Fu family's blood that flows in my veins. If even the Fu family cannot accommodate me, then where else would be my true home? Not only that, but I also intend to work in our Fu group and contribute my strength to the family business." As he spoke, Fu Shiling's eyes were filled with confidence and determination. "Humph." Fu Shiyue's cold and sarcastic laugh suddenly rang out. He slightly narrowed his eyes, revealing an unspeakable indifference and disdain. Then, he said in an exceedingly chilling tone, "Only now, at this point, do you realize that Fu family blood flows in your veins? Back then, you swore that the Fu family was responsible for your mother's death and declared you would completely sever ties with them. Those resolute words still echo in my ears. How is it that now you've thrown everything you once said to the back of your mind? Do you have no memory of what you've said or done? No clue at all?" His voice was as biting as a cold wind, sending shivers down one's spine. Every word was like a sharp sword, mercilessly stabbing at the other person's heart. At this moment, Fu Shiyue revealed his firm and ruthless side, questioning the person before him without mercy. "All right, Shiyue, Shiling is back now. It's true that Dad wronged him before, but now that he's returned to us, Dad is truly happy. So, for my sake, as your father, please stop arguing endlessly with your brother." Hearing his father say this, Fu Shiyue found it utterly ridiculous, and a cold sneer involuntarily formed in his heart. He stared intently at Fu Haoxing standing before him, his eyes filled with contempt and disdain. "Humph, your face? What importance does it hold for me?" Fu Shiyue scoffed coldly, then abruptly turned and walked out the door without looking back. Every step was firm and powerful, After exiting the Fu residence, Fu Shiyue quickly got into the car parked nearby and slammed the door shut. With the roar of the engine, the car sped away like an arrow released from a bow, quickly disappearing at the end of the road. In a corner of the Fu residence, in Fu Shiling's room, there was a small balcony. At this moment, Fu Shiling stood there alone, holding a bottle of iced beer. He silently raised his head, put the bottle to his lips, and gulped it down. The cold liquid flowed down his throat, bringing a brief sense of coolness and release. However, this could not mask the deep sorrow and bitterness within him. Moonlight spilled over him, illuminating his lonely yet resolute figure. His thoughts drifted far away, recalling his time in Australia. Back then, he was young and naive, yet he was mercilessly sent to a foreign land, Australia. There, with no relatives in sight, he spent one long, lonely night after another. He was keenly aware of his unusual status, for he was the unacknowledged, illegitimate son of the Fu family, and his birth mother was merely a lowly, insignificant nanny in the Fu household. He was destined to endure much unfair treatment and many strange looks. And the half-brother relationship with Fu Shiyue further filled their dynamic with complex emotional entanglements and unspoken contradictions. In this unfamiliar country, he strived to adapt to the new environment, yet he could never shake off the deep-seated feelings of inferiority and helplessness. However, it was precisely this incredibly difficult life journey, full of trials and thorns, that forged his character, making him as cold as ice, decisive and ruthless. These years of suffering were like a mercilessly sharp carving knife, leaving deep and shallow scars in his once naive and simple heart, gradually making him cold and resilient. They were also like a raging inferno, burning away the last vestiges of kindness and compassion in his heart, leaving only endless indifference and ruthlessness. Ultimately, he became a terrifying and formidable presence, emitting a chilling aura, as grim and fearsome as if from the netherworld. But ultimately, I am a member of the Fu family, Fu Shiyue. That's a fact you can never change. What can you do to me? More and more empty beer bottles lay scattered haphazardly on the balcony floor, like discarded rubbish. He stood there quietly, his gaze both lost and determined, looking at the increasingly dazzling star in the night sky. What exactly did you see in Fu Haoxing? How could a man like him be worth your? He whispered, his voice hoarse and choked. Don't worry, I will rightfully place your name in the Mu family ancestral hall. I will not let you leave in such obscurity. I am no longer the Fu Shiling of the past. Finally, he uttered, Mom. He clenched his fists tightly, his heart filled with longing for his mother and anger at the unfair treatment of the past. He would not let go of anyone who had ever harmed them, mother and son. He would use his own strength to prove his mother's innocence and let everyone know her greatness. The stars in the night sky flickered faintly, seemingly silently cheering him on. He took a deep breath, telling himself not to give up, to persevere no matter how great the difficulties. For only then could he fulfill his promise to his mother. On this night, it was as if the entire world was enveloped in a mysterious and heavy atmosphere. For him, tonight was destined to be an extraordinary, unforgettable night. On the balcony, various wine bottles lay scattered across the floor, like abandoned orphans helpless on the cold ground. He sat amidst these bottles, frantically downing strong liquor can after can, seemingly trying to numb his shattered heart with alcohol. With every drink, he would fiercely hurl the empty can far away, as if by doing so he could discard the pain and troubles deep within his heart. However, as time passed, the bottles on the ground multiplied, but the sorrow in his heart did not diminish in the slightest. Moonlight shone upon him, reflecting his lonely and haggard figure. The evening breeze gently brushed past, bringing a hint of coolness, but unable to soothe the sorrow in his heart. In this silent night, only alcohol accompanied him, allowing him to temporarily forget the pressures and difficulties of real life. Elvis, why are you drowning your sorrows in alcohol alone again? Anna walked slowly to Elvis's side with light steps, extending her arms and gently embracing his waist. Under the bright moonlight, their figures intertwined, like a beautiful painting. At that moment, the entire world seemed to fall silent, with only the two of them relying on each other. Anna, Fu Shiling's lips curved slightly upwards as he softly called her name. His voice was filled with a faint scent of alcohol, mixed with a hint of hoarseness and lowness. Anna silently responded to his embrace, knowing well that Elvis's heart was tormented by pain at that moment. All this time, no matter when or where, she had always been by his side, accompanying him through thick and thin. As years passed, they had long grown accustomed to this way of life, relying on each other and never leaving. Get some good rest. As long as you need me, I'll always be by your side, okay? She gently patted his shoulder, her eyes full of affection and concern, softly comforting him as if to convey all her warmth to him. As the sun slowly rose and morning light bathed the earth, time seemed to awaken, and a new day began for the Fu Corporation. President Fu, just 2 days ago, a piece of news garnered widespread attention. The Fu family's second young master has returned to Lon City from distant Australia. Now, an overwhelming flood of news revolves around you and young Master Fu, with all sorts of rumors spreading like wildfire. It's said that there has always been discord between you, and he was sent to live overseas from a young age. His return this time has further fueled speculation. Some assert that his return to the country is aimed at contending with you for control of the Fu family. This rumor undoubtedly poses an extremely severe challenge to the current Fu Corporation. A shareholder sitting below stood up excitedly and spoke earnestly. Immediately after, another shareholder echoed, "Yes, in my opinion, the wisest course of action right now is to have young Master Fu also join the Fu group. This way, in the eyes of outsiders, you two won't appear to be at loggerheads as the rumors suggest. By doing so, those baseless rumors will naturally collapse on their own. Not only can this eliminate negative impacts, but it can also stabilize the uneasy atmosphere within the company." The other shareholders nodded in agreement, and the meeting room immediately fell into a tense atmosphere. Facing everyone's gaze, President Fu frowned deeply and remained silent. Clearly, this issue felt extremely thorny to him. However, at this critical moment, he had to think calmly, weigh the pros and cons, and make the most appropriate decision. After all, the future development of the Fu Corporation concerned the interests of numerous employees and shareholders, allowing no room for error. "I will handle this matter. The most important thing now is for the design department to focus on continuous new design and development work. Don't try to fob me off with designs that are merely flashy but lack substance." He furiously slammed a stack of design drawings he held onto the table in front of everyone, his eyes as cold as ice, his tone filled with disdain and disappointment. "Take a good look at your so-called masterpieces. They have only a beautiful exterior, yet no actual content. The Fu Group hired you here at high salaries not for you to slack off." His voice echoed through the entire office like thunder, making everyone present tremble. The designers, who had originally held onto a sliver of hope, now lowered their heads, daring not to meet his sharp gaze. Faced with such severe reprimand, everyone knew full well that if they couldn't produce truly valuable design proposals, it would be difficult to gain the approval of this iron-blooded superior again. After the meeting concluded, they each returned to their respective workstations. "President Fu, someone outside wishes to see you. It's young Master Fu," he says. Fu Shiyue's secretary said timidly, her voice revealing a hint of hesitation and apprehension. Hearing this news, Fu Shiyue frowned slightly, but did not show much surprise. However, what surprised him was how quickly the other party had arrived. Fu Shiyue's lips curved slightly, revealing a barely perceptible smile, and he said blandly, "Let him in." A moment later, a figure slowly walked into the office. The person wore a black jacket, his steps steady and confident. A relaxed smile played on his face, as if he was full of curiosity about everything here. Upon entering, Fu Shirling spoke. "Wow, it seems the Fu Group is developing really well. Its scale is truly astonishing." He said this while looking around, his eyes sparkling with admiration. Fu Shiyue sat quietly behind his desk, watching the unexpected visitor before him. His gaze was deep and calm, as if he wanted to see through the other person's exterior to their true intentions. "For 10 years, I was in Australia, and you were the president in Lon City. We truly are poles apart, yet both are members of the Fu family. Sometimes, I really feel unwilling. Sometimes, Fate is simply unfair. Even though the same blood flows through their veins, why did he suffer so much from a young age? In this foreign land, he had to resort to any means to survive. Yet the high and mighty president of the Fu Corporation before him could easily obtain everything he desired, power and status, without the slightest effort. Fu Shiyue's gaze, like a hawk's, fell upon him. After a light scrutiny, his brows furrowed slightly, and a cold smile flashed across his face. Then, with a half-smile, he raised his eyes and said, Fu Shirling, although you have the Fu family bloodline, you can never lay claim to the Fu Corporation or anything of the Fu family, because you are merely an illegitimate son. The contempt and mockery in his words were like a sharp blade, ruthlessly piercing Fu Shirling's heart. Upon hearing those last few words, Fu Shirling's eyes instantly turned icy cold, as if they could freeze everything around him. His deep black pupils now resembled a tranquil, bottomless pool, instilling fear in those who gazed into them. Fu Shirling slowly turned around, his lips tightly pressed together, not uttering a word. However, the originally aloof and ethereal aura about him underwent a drastic change in an instant, replaced by a dark and fierce presence, like an enraged beast ready to pounce on its enemy at any moment. His voice was low and full of authority, every word seeming to be squeezed out from between his teeth. Very well. Fu Shiyue, remember what you said today. The reason I chose to return here is to reclaim the Fu group from your hands. That is my true purpose for coming back. After saying these words, Fu Shirling's figure gradually receded, leaving behind a chilling silhouette. His steps were firm and powerful, as if nothing could impede his progress. In the direction he departed, dark clouds gradually gathered, signaling an approaching storm. The heavy rain began to fall at this moment, fierce winds rustling loudly through the gaps between leaves, and buildings seemed to be buried in a grayish-white mist. Beneath the hazy city, rotting wood buried withered bones, and raindrops fell heavily through the fluttering leaves. Oval-shaped water droplets burst, scattering more droplets. Some continued to fall, while others, mixed with a hint of crimson, vanished into the mud. The world flickered between light and dark, thoughts paused, and then resumed. Fu Shirling walked silently in the rain alone, his steps slow and steady. Raindrops drenched his hair and clothes, but he seemed not to care, as if he had merged with the rain. His figure appeared lonely and resolute in the rain curtain, like a ship lost in the vast ocean, facing the baptism of wind and waves alone. Yet, his eyes were full of determination and resolve, as if telling the world, no matter how many difficulties and obstacles lay ahead, he would not flinch. The rain continued to fall relentlessly, splashing water upon impact with the ground. His footsteps, accompanied by the sound of rain, wove together into a unique melody. This melody was both melancholic and inspiring, moving one's heart. Gradually, he disappeared into the rain curtain, leaving behind only a trail of long footprints and his silhouette, made clearer by the washing rain. Fu Shiyue, oh Fu Shiyue, I will absolutely not let you off lightly. I will make you pay a terrible price. Not only will I seize everything you cherish most, treating it as important as your life, and claim it for myself, but I will also launch a fierce attack on the colossal and daunting Fu group behind you, crushing it in one fell swoop. And as for those so-called people around you who flatter and desperately try to please you, I will break them one by one, letting them know what a miserable end they will face for offending me. Shiyue, just agree to let your younger brother work at the Fu Corporation. It would be good for him to get some experience there. After all, he's grown accustomed to being free and undisciplined in Australia. If he could work steadily at the Fu Corporation for a while, he'd surely become more mature and stable. The old man urged painstakingly, shaking his head helplessly, and then added, no matter what, you are blood brothers. Shiyue listened to his father's incessant nagging, feeling utterly helpless. Just a moment ago, Fu Shirling had walked away from him, and now, unexpectedly, Fu Haoxing appeared, chattering endlessly in his ear. He couldn't help but reach up to rub his forehead, a look of irritation on his face. How noisy! His brows furrowed slightly, his complexion turned somewhat gloomy, and his eyes revealed a hint of displeasure and helplessness. He parted his lips slightly and slowly said, "Heh, isn't it all because of your romantic debts from back then?" Night deepened, and boundless darkness enveloped Lawn City. The brilliant and shimmering neon lights converged into a long river, glowing faintly under the night sky. A Bugatti was parked by the roadside. The black Bugatti, a full limited edition model, boasted sleek and sharp lines, exuding nobility and grandeur. Mirror Bar, a place to enjoy freedom. Be yourself in the mirror. A rich aroma of alcohol permeated the air, intoxicating, causing a slight dizziness. Multicolor neon lights intertwined, artfully cutting people's vision, making the entire scene hazy and dreamlike. The lights flickered, as if dancing with the music, creating a joyful mood, immersing one in the lively atmosphere. However, against this backdrop of noise and excitement, a man sat quietly on a single sofa, a stark contrast to his surroundings. His legs were elegantly crossed, emanating a powerful aura that deterred easy approach. A waiter cautiously handed him a cigarette and a lighter. The man took them, then slowly and deliberately lit the cigarette. Then, he slightly narrowed his eyes, held the slender cigarette between his fingers, and took a deep drag. As white smoke slowly rose, the man's face gradually became shrouded in a thin layer of smoke, his expression currently indiscernible. Yet, from his straight nose bridge, well-defined jawline, and deep-set eyes, one could sense an ineffable majesty and charm. He sat there silently, motionless like a sculpture, only the cigarette in his hand burning, as if narrating a story within his heart. "Elvis, you're finally back. I thought you'd stay in Australia forever and never return to Lawn City." The bar owner had known Fu Shirling for a long time. They had shared an unforgettable experience together in distant Australia. Now, seeing his old friend return, the owner could barely contain his joy, personally bringing several bottles of cherished vintage wine to the booth. Unlike other noisy and bustling places, the atmosphere here was remarkably tranquil. There was no loud music or boisterous chatter, only soft lighting spilling onto the tables, creating a serene yet mysterious ambience. This unique atmosphere seemed to make people forget all worries, allowing them to immerse themselves in their own world. Fu Shirling sat quietly in the booth, gently swirling a wine glass in his hand, his gaze distant and somewhat hazy. He exuded an air of languid weariness, seemingly indifferent to everything around him. "Of course I had to come back, to reclaim everything that rightfully belongs to me." The man's eyes were resolute and sharp, as if burning with a raging fire. Then, he took a deep breath and said, "So, in the coming days, I might be coming to see you frequently. I hope to gather some crucial information from you." The other person nodded without hesitation, responding, "Okay, no problem at all. Since you trust me, just say whatever help you need. I'll go all out and support you to the end." Having said that, the man didn't forget to crack a joke, deliberately calling out in a teasing tone, "But, when things are done, don't forget your loyal little brother, President Fu." After speaking, they then clinked their wine glasses together with a shared understanding, and he immediately tilted his head back, draining his. "Elvis, I have some exclusive insider news." After putting down his glass, one of them said mysteriously, "I heard that the renowned international jewelry designer, Mr. Kimak, is about to arrive in Lawn City from the United States. You know, this master is world-renowned, and I hear Fu Corporation specifically invited him from the distant United States of America. If you can successfully intercept him, that would definitely be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for you." Fu Shirling said nothing, but in truth, he was already secretly calculating in his mind and quickly formulated a detailed plan. Fu Corporation, CEO's office. "President Fu, latest news. Mr. Kimak has arrived at the airport. I've already arranged for a dedicated person to pick him up and safely deliver him to the hotel for a good rest. Tomorrow, we will hold a grand gala, and Mr. Kimak will certainly be invited to attend in person. This is an excellent opportunity to showcase to the outside world the limitless possibilities that our collaboration with this international star brings. I believe this grand event will surely create a sensation and become the industry's focal point." Chi Chu sat in front of him. Fu Shiyue sat upright in his luxurious chair. He slowly turned around, his gaze calm and profound as he stared straight ahead. His voice was deep and magnetic, seemingly carrying an invisible authority. So, next, you need to prepare thoroughly for tomorrow's press conference. This matter is crucial and allows for no slightest oversight. I hope you will meticulously check every single detail to ensure everything is well organized and foolproof. If you have any questions or need assistance, report to me at any time. After speaking, Shiyue nodded slightly, signaling that the other person could leave. His gaze remained firm and composed, as if contemplating further future plans. A tense and serious atmosphere permeated the entire room, inspiring a sense of awe. Xie nodded, then left the office. Then, he slowly picked up the phone, a hint of determination and seriousness in his eyes. He took a deep breath and spoke into the phone. Shiyue, from now on, arrange people to closely monitor Fu Shiling's every move. If you find any unusual circumstances or suspicious actions from him, report to me immediately. Remember, you absolutely cannot let your guard down. He paused, then added, there's also a very important point. He must absolutely not be allowed to cause trouble or make mischief at any important event. We must ensure everything proceeds smoothly according to the original plan, without the slightest error. He knew very well that tomorrow's press conference was crucial, and Fu Shiling was highly likely to be present. Therefore, he had to constantly monitor his movements and absolutely not allow him to seize any opportunity to disrupt his meticulously planned agenda. A deep, decisive voice came from the other end of the line. Don't worry, I know what to do. Hearing such a crisp and straightforward reply, he breathed a slight sigh of relief, but his vigilance did not relax in the slightest. Because he knew, his contest with him had only just begun. Night fell. Countless lanterns shone against each other, the sky filled with lights like stars fallen to earth. Tonight's gala was bustling with people, exceptionally lively. In the prosperous city of Lan City, influential figures from various conglomerates, wielding immense wealth and power, flocked to tonight's grand event. They were dressed in lavish attire, sporting confident smiles, exchanging greetings as they entered the venue. These were business elites, social luminaries, and titans from various industries, rarely seen on ordinary days, but gathered together today for a special reason. The atmosphere was exceptionally fervent, with people whispering and discussing various topics. Some discussed the latest market trends and business opportunities. Others exchanged industry news and insights. Everyone seemed exceptionally vibrant, as if this moment was their stage to display their strength and charm. And this gala undoubtedly became the focus of attention for Lan City citizens, attracting countless eyes. Fu Shiyue stood tall and slender like a pine tree amidst the bustling crowd, his right hand naturally holding a stemmed glass of red wine. His deep, calm eyes were like a still pool, unruffled yet containing endless depth. The exquisitely tailored suit, fitting his physique, further accentuated his tall and imposing figure, giving him an air of grandeur. At this moment, a foreign man stood side by side with Fu Shiyue. This gentleman was dressed in a well-tailored, high-quality black suit that perfectly outlined his robust physique. He sported a dense and neatly combed full beard, and his golden eyes, sparkling like jewels, were truly striking. Hi, it's a great pleasure to meet you all. I am Mr. Kimek. He spoke with fairly fluent Chinese, yet upon closer listening, one could discern that his pace was slightly slow and his tone a bit unpracticed, as if he hadn't quite mastered the language yet. The well-dressed and elegant business elites around them stepped forward, smiling, extending their hands to him for a polite handshake, and warmly saying, "Welcome." Afterwards, everyone raised their exquisite stemmed glasses, lightly clinking them together, producing a crisp and pleasant sound, thereby expressing their sincerest welcome to him. Long time no see, President Fu. Hearing this familiar voice, Fu Shiyue slowly raised his head and looked towards the source. Two figures entered from outside the door, one of whom was his paternal half-brother, Fu Shiling. Fu Shiling, dressed in a finely tailored dark suit, walked in with steady steps. The person walking beside him wore a snow-white suit, his posture as straight as a pine, with an exceptionally elegant demeanor. Only when the two approached did Fu Shiyue clearly see the face of the man in white, and he couldn't help but furrow his brow slightly. It turned out that the person accompanying him was Liu Jian from Wanxin Group. Fu Shiyue mused to himself. I didn't expect to see President Liu of Wanxin here today. However, when his gaze swept over Fu Shirling again, his eyes grew even colder, and with a slight lift of his lips, he said faintly, "Oh, and you?" His words seemed to be filled with disdain and mockery for Fu Shirling. President Fu, I didn't come here today just to quarrel with you. I heard Mr. Kim Mak was coming. I had heard about him back in Australia and always admired him greatly. Fu Shirling leaned forward, moving closer to the other man, tilting his head, his face full of smugness, and challenged. I'm quite interested to see how you plan to handle a god-level figure like Mr. Kim Mak. Don't let me down. He raised an eyebrow slightly, a faint smile playing on his lips, seemingly eager to see the other stumble. He turned his cold face to gaze at him. You're truly working hard for Fu Corporation. Have you partnered with Wanxin? Fu Shiyue snorted coldly. Do you think I don't know what you're plotting? But don't forget, Fu Corporation is mine in the end. A hint of ruthlessness flashed in his eyes. Liu Jian interrupted with a smile. Shirling, don't be so impulsive. We're all here for business. Why make it so awkward? Fu Shirling glared at him. Don't pretend to be a good person here. I'm not buying it. Mr. Kim Mak stepped forward to interrupt the tense atmosphere between them. Looking at Fu Shirling, he quickly tried to smooth things over. Oh, these gentlemen are my fans. They admired me so much back in Australia. We can chat properly later, but for now, let's not let minor issues affect everyone's mood. Then, he looked at Fu Shiyue and said in fluent English, Mr. You, our cooperation must continue. However, Fu Shiyue smiled and turned to him, saying, Of course, Mr. Kim Mak, let's discuss the details of our cooperation first. The party was in full swing, and the atmosphere was exceptionally lively. Although nominally just an ordinary get-together, it was in reality a gathering brimming with various exchanges of interests and opportunities for business cooperation. Behind this seemingly boisterous occasion lay countless schemes and calculations. Everyone came with their own agenda, either seeking partners, expanding business areas, or hoping to seize the opportunity to connect with more influential people. There was no simple communication or entertainment here, only hidden power struggles and strategic games. On stage, Fu Shiyue and Mr. Kim Mak were conversing pleasantly, both smiling, seemingly discussing interesting topics. However, at that moment, an uninvited guest walked onto the stage, breaking the harmonious atmosphere. This person was Fu Shirling, whose appearance drew glances from everyone in the audience. Fu Shirling walked with a resolute stride towards Fu Shiyue and Mr. Kim Mak, his eyes revealing a sense of determination and resolve. He suddenly spoke up. Mr. Kim Mak, please allow me to introduce myself. I am Fu Shirling, a representative of Wanxin Group. You can also call me Elvis. I'm here today to discuss some potential cooperation opportunities with your esteemed company. Of course, this is just an initial idea, and if you have any questions or require further information, we can communicate at any time. After saying this, he smiled at Mr. Kim Mak and nodded slightly. Then, he took out a meticulously prepared proposal from his folder and carefully handed it to Mr. Kim Mak. Mr. Kim Mak took the proposal, first briefly scanning the cover and title, then began to read its contents carefully. Liu Jian, standing nearby, quietly observed their interaction, pondering the potential impact and benefits this cooperation might bring. After reading it, he nodded thoughtfully, then revealed a meaningful smile and said with undisguised appreciation, Are the contents written here all true? I am very interested in this. Although his Chinese wasn't fluent, deep interest was evident in his words. At this moment, Fu Shiyue, who was standing by, witnessed the entire process. He turned to look at Fu Shirling, his lips curving into a half-smile, saying, It seems, President Fu, that you came well prepared. His words contained both affirmation for Fu Shirling and a hint of curiosity and inquiry. Mr. Kim Mak, standing beside them, heard Fu Shiyue also address him as President Fu, and a sense of confusion arose in his heart. He looked curiously at the two men in front of him and asked, puzzled, You both have the surname Fu? Are you brothers? Fu Shirling answered calmly, That's right. I am the paternal half-brother of President Fu from Fu Group. The moment his words fell, the entire scene instantly fell silent. The people present looked at each other, their faces showing expressions of surprise and doubt. They had previously heard rumors of two heirs in the Fu family, but they didn't know the specifics. Now, this news swept through like a whirlwind, plunging everyone into contemplation. Some began to recall earlier rumors. It was said that the second young master of the Fu family had been sent abroad to live years ago, but had now suddenly returned to Lan City. Did his return signify a connection to internal family conflicts? Were the previous media reports about discord between the brothers not unfounded? For a time, various speculations and discussions spread throughout the crowd. Everyone whispered to each other, trying to find answers in each other's eyes and expressions. This sudden revelation seemed to inject a factor of uncertainty into the previously calm situation, filling people with curiosity and anticipation for the future of the Fu family. Fu Shiyue slowly walked to Fu Shiling's side, then leaned close to his ear, speaking in a very low and intimidating voice. Fu Shiling, even if you ultimately can't enter our Fu family's enterprise and instead turn to Wanshan Group, trying to rely on Lu Jian's power, what good will that do? Do you genuinely believe that by playing some petty tricks, getting Mr. Kim Mak to invest in you, you can make me lose to you? His voice revealed strong confidence and disdain, as if he had completely seen through Fu Shiling's plans and intentions. Fu Shiyue's gaze was cold and resolute, as if telling Fu Shiling that no matter what actions he took, it would be impossible to shake his position or surpass his achievements. At the same time, these words also hinted at Fu Shiyue's familiarity with business competition and his confidence in his own strength, displaying his authority and dominance as a successful businessman and family member. At this moment, their gazes met like two bolts of lightning, as if the entire world had frozen. Their eyes were filled with firmness and determination, neither willing to show weakness. The air was thick with tension, as if the sound of their heartbeats could be heard. Sparks flickered in their eyes, a testament to their unwavering beliefs. Finally, one of them broke the silence. He squinted slightly, revealing a barely perceptible smile. Though brief, this smile was enough for the other to sense his inner confidence and composure. Immediately after, Fu Shiling spoke. It seems we are destined to be on opposite sides. The other did not back down, but instead stepped forward and retorted. Indeed, but only the strong will have the last laugh. Night descended, slowly covering the entire world like a vast black curtain. The daytime clamor gradually faded. At this very moment, Xie Shiyun, located in a virtual white space, quietly watched all the scenes and images displayed on the screen. Those painful memories, once buried deep within her heart, surged forth like a powerful tide, instantly flooding her mind. Every detail, every trace of emotion, became incredibly clear in that instant. Tears shimmered in her eyes, as fragments of the past played out like a movie before her. The forgotten fragments were now reassembled into a complete story, bringing her to a sudden realization. All the memories, like the final piece of a jigsaw puzzle, fitted perfectly into place, making the entire picture clear. She finally understood the various mysteries of the past and found the crucial clues to unraveling the knots in her heart. The resurgence of these memories both pained her and gave her a sense of relief. She curled into a ball, clutching her head tightly with both hands, muttering in agony, "I hate you. I hate you. You liar. Fu Shiyue, you big liar." These two women had identical faces, but vastly different personalities. The original her was timid, and after the heavy blow of losing her parents in childhood, she became even more silent and withdrawn. However, since meeting Pianjinyang, she gradually regained her joy and vitality. He was like a beam of light in her dark world, giving her warmth and hope, helping her to recover. They leaned on each other, comforting each other, becoming each other's salvation in life. And the woman by his side at this very moment was also named Xie Shiyun. She was broad-minded and generous, kind-hearted and straightforward. She came from another world, an unknown online novel author. Although not widely famous, she always held steadfast to her creative dreams, writing tirelessly. Persistent effort would eventually lead to success, and she believed she would surely achieve something. For someone who had long been immersed in darkness, it was natural for their heart to be filled with envy for the sunlight. If that's truly the case, then I'm willing to play the Good Samaritan. A faint smile hung on her face, but her eyes, incredibly complex, gazed at the woman on the screen who looked exactly like her, as she whispered, "I want you to feel the same pain as me from now on." She suddenly burst into frantic laughter, her face contorting hideously. She slowly fell backward, her body gradually turning transparent until it vanished. She truly couldn't understand why the other person would descend into this world. They were originally one in spirit, indistinguishable from each other, and it truly made no difference who accompanied that man. It was just unfortunate that that man had killed her parents. She vowed not to be human if this revenge was not exacted. Therefore, she had to make her other self carry out the revenge plan in her stead. And all of this, the other party would understand clearly through shared memories. From today onward, there would no longer be two Xie Shiyuns in the world. She had been adopted by Fu Shiyue since childhood, and from then on, he was her sole reliance and family in life. Once, their relationship was filled with endless warmth and care. Fu Shiyue doted on her, treated her as his own, providing her with meticulous care and affection. She grew up in his warm embrace, feeling the warmth and security of a family. However, time had flown, and circumstances had changed. Now, that warmth had vanished, replaced by deep pain. Perhaps it was fate's cruel twist. Xie Shiyun suddenly awoke from her dream. She saw a woman who looked exactly like her, speaking strange words to her, then beginning to laugh wildly before slowly vanishing before her eyes. In an instant, her mind felt as if it had been struck by lightning, and countless fragments of memory surged in like a tide. The past events, once buried deep in her heart, were now clearly laid out before her. She widened her eyes, feeling an indescribable fear and doubt surge in her heart regarding the man who had previously treated her so gently. She began to realize that this man seemed to be hiding many unknown secrets. And the murder of her dearest relatives was, astonishingly, inextricably linked to him. This shocking discovery made her body tremble uncontrollably, and tears blurred her eyes. She covered her mouth, afraid she might cry out. She couldn't believe any of this was real, yet the memories were so vivid, undeniable. Her heart plunged into extreme pain and struggle, as if her entire world had collapsed in an instant. Xie Shiyun suddenly woke from his sleep, his forehead slick with cold sweat, his body trembling slightly. He sat on the edge of the bed, his eyes dazed and confused, as if still immersed in the terrifying dream he had just had. After a long while, he came back to his senses, muttering to himself, "No, I must figure out what exactly is going on." She seemed not to belong to this world, yet that woman had the same face as her. Memories flickered, distorted, and now she even felt her own memories were being wantonly tampered with. Many past scenes with Fu Shiyue surged into her mind. Those images played out before her eyes like a movie, from childhood to adulthood. What on earth was happening? She picked up her phone to call Fu Shiyue, but no one answered. Nightfall, like a giant black curtain, quietly draped over the entire city. In this silent moment, Fu Shiyue quietly turned around, his gaze fixed on Fu Shirling, who stood before him. His eyes revealed a deep gaze and questioning, that sharp look seeming to penetrate directly into the other's inner world. Fu Shiyue narrowed his eyes slightly, speaking slowly and firmly. "Did you come back from Australia just to snatch the Fu group from my hands? Even going so far as to collude with Wanshin?" His voice was low and powerful, every word carrying a heavy weight, making one hold their breath. A flicker of anger and disappointment glinted in Fu Shiyue's eyes. He stared intently at the other, as if wanting to see the true intentions hidden behind the mask. However, Fu Shirling presented an indifferent and fearless expression, standing steadily before him. After all, his return this time was to reclaim the Fu group, and more, to take away everything the other man cherished, mercilessly stripping him of his happiness and glory. He had to ensure his beloved mother's spirit could rest in peace, allowing her to rightfully return to the Fu family ancestral hall, receiving the respect and offerings she deserved. This was not only for his mother, but also for his own dignity and honor. "There's a woman named Xie Shiyun by your side, isn't there?" he said, suddenly letting out a cold laugh. You love her very much, right? His laughter was chilling. Despite having the most youthful and bright face, those clear eyes harbored suppressed emotions, a cold cruelty. Even disguised by a smile, a few glimmers of icy malice couldn't help but escape. I seem to be quite interested in her too. What kind of woman could make you hide her for so many years? Fu Shiling mused, rubbing his chin. Fu Shiling, if you dare to lay even a finger on her, I will make you pay a terrible price. Fu Shiyue warned, his gaze icy and his tone resolute. Their gloomy gazes collided in the air, sparking a silent battle. He clearly knew that Fu Shiling before him was no longer the naive boy who used to be bullied. Over the years, his experiences of venturing across the ocean to Australia had completely transformed him. In that unfamiliar land, he had endured hardships and learned to be ruthless and decisive. Now, he acted with swift efficiency and incredibly ruthless methods. He remained silent, simply leaning back slowly, a mysterious smile playing on his lips, as if hiding endless profound meanings. Then, he shrugged casually and said firmly, "In this world, there is nothing that can make me fear. Do you think I would give up so easily because of your threats?" Having said that, he resolutely turned away, his back to the other, and continued, "Absolutely not." He was about to turn and leave, but suddenly stopped. He tilted his head slightly, his gaze provocatively fixed on the other, a cold sneer playing on his lips. "Humph. Do you really think I know nothing about everything you've done here all these years? Don't think you've covered your tracks perfectly. I've seen it all. Let me tell you now, if your beloved woman knew about those dirty dealings you've been involved in, would she still be willing to stay by your side?" His voice carried a hint of disdain and mockery, as if he had already seen through the other's inner unease and fear. After saying this, he turned around again, preparing to step away from the place. However, before taking the first step, he paused again, seemingly remembering something important. Immediately after, he turned back, speaking in an even sharper tone. "And also, don't treat everyone else as fools. You think you can deceive everyone, but the truth will eventually come to light. By then, you will lose everything, including what you cherish most." Having uttered his last words, he no longer lingered, resolutely walking off into the distance, leaving Fu Shiyue standing there, lost in thought. A moment later, he picked up his phone, looking at the series of flashing numbers on the screen. A complex emotion surged in his heart. All these missed calls were from the same person, Xie Shiyun. He gazed at the familiar name, his finger hovering hesitantly above the call button, wanting to dial back, but for some reason, his hand seemed paralyzed, unable to press it. He slowly put down his phone, turned, and walked to the office window, standing there quietly, his tall figure silhouetted. He put his hands in his pockets, gazing into the distance, his thoughts gradually drifting back to a long time ago. At 20, Fu Shiyue already had plans for his future. He yearned to enter the Fu group and display his talents and ambitions. However, at that time, he was still young and lacked sufficient qualifications and experience to directly enter this vast corporate empire. It was then that Fu Shiyue's grandfather assigned him a difficult task, to approach Xie Chongrong of Fanqing Group and persuade him to cooperate with the Fu group. Faced with this seemingly impossible mission, Fu Shiyue did not shrink back. Instead, he saw it as a rare opportunity. At that time, the Fu group was just emerging and had not yet gained widespread attention in the industry. In contrast, Fanqing Group was one of the most outstanding design groups in the market, widely renowned. To successfully cooperate with such a powerful counterpart, Fu Shiyue knew he needed to exert more effort and employ more strategies. He just sat there quietly, his brows tightly furrowed, as if the entire world had frozen. His thoughts gradually drifted back to the past, to the moment that had once caused him endless pain and confusion, the death of Xie Shiyun's parents, which was actually caused by the Fu family, and he was also inextricably linked to it. To atone, he rescued Xie Shiyun without hesitation and brought her back to his side, determined to raise her to adulthood himself. However, it was in the very year she lost her parents that Xie Shiyun's personality underwent a dramatic change. The once lively, cheerful, and sunny little girl gradually disappeared, replaced by an introverted and reclusive teenager. She no longer interacted easily with others as before, and was filled with caution and distrust towards the world around her. She shut herself off, immersed in deep inner pain, unwilling to open her heart to anyone. Her smiles became rare and precious, as if forgotten by time in some distant corner. Despite being amidst noisy crowds, Xie Shiyun felt an overwhelming sense of loneliness. She preferred to ponder in silence by herself rather than participate in lively social activities. Her eyes often revealed a faint sadness, making one feel pity for her. His phone rang again, and he still pressed the answer button. What's wrong? His mood was complex. At this moment, he had 1,000 words he wanted to say to her, but they stuck in his throat, unable to come out. The other end of the line was silent, not a word spoken. Finally, he spoke first. "I'll be right back." After hanging up, he stood still for a moment, then slowly turned and walked towards home. Upon returning home, his gaze involuntarily fell upon the room upstairs. The door was ajar, letting out a faint light. Was she still awake? He quietly went upstairs, walked to the door, hesitated for a moment, and finally gently pushed it open and entered. The room was very quiet, with only her faint breathing. She lay on the bed in a white dress, turned away from him, seemingly asleep. He quietly walked to the bedside and sat down, gazing at her back, an indescribable emotion welling up in his heart. He reached out, wanting to gently stroke her hair, but stopped just as he was about to touch her. He just sat by the bed, watching her motionlessly. Xie Shiyun seemed to sense his familiar presence, slowly opened her eyes, sat upright, her gaze calm and her tone faint. "You're back." Shiyue softly acknowledged her, looking at her exquisitely beautiful face. An impulse welled up within him to reach out and touch her, but just as his hand was about to brush her cheek, she subtly turned her head away. Shiyue's hand remained suspended in midair, feeling somewhat awkward and lost. He looked at Xie Shiyun, a flicker of pain and helplessness in his eyes. Suddenly, she spoke. "Shiyue, I remember everything." Her tone was calm, yet carried an unspeakable weight. It was as if, in that moment, she had finally lifted the fog that had long shrouded her mind, seeing all the truth clearly. She remembered everything. Those memories buried deep in her heart surged forth like a tide. There were painful ones, beautiful ones, every detail so clearly displayed before her eyes. The time she had shared with Shiyue, whether filled with laughter or tears, now became an indelible mark in her heart. Shiyue froze, staring directly at her delicate face, a trace of unmasked guilt flickering in his eyes. His voice was hoarse. He seemed to want to say something, but ultimately only let out a soft sigh. She met his gaze without flinching, her face etched with pain. Her eyes were like sharp swords, piercing his soul, leaving him no escape. She bit her lip tightly, trying not to let tears fall, but her trembling voice betrayed her inner fragility. "Why? Why did you do this to me?" Shiyue silently watched her, his heart filled with conflict and helplessness. He knew the mistakes he had made had caused her immense pain, but at this moment, he found himself powerless to rectify any of it. He could only stand there in silence, enduring her questions and accusations. Seeing him remain silent, Xie Shiyun became even more furious. She got off the bed and incessantly punched him. Shiyue closed his eyes, allowing Xie Shiyun's fists to land on him. He knew this was the punishment he deserved. After a moment, Xie Shiyun stopped, looking at Shiyue, breathing heavily. Shiyue raised his head, looking at her with a face full of guilt. "I'm sorry, Yun. I know I was wrong. Can a simple, 'I'm sorry' make up for the harm you've caused me?" Xie Shiyun's tears could no longer be held back, pouring down like a broken dam. Shiyue tenderly wiped away the tears from the corners of her eyes. "I know I can't completely make up for the pain I've caused you, but I will spend my entire life compensating you. Please give me one more chance to take good care of you." Hearing Shiyue's words, the anger in Xie Shiyun's heart gradually subsided. She looked at Shiyue, a complex emotion flashing in her eyes. "Everything you did to me, to my family, can that all be offset by a mere promise to take care of me for a lifetime?" "Shiyue, your heart is so vicious. How can you even have the audacity to say such things to me?" she said to him, her voice hoarse. "You're pregnant, Ayun. You're carrying our child." His gaze, incredibly tender, fixed on her, as if the entire world had shrunk to just the two of them. He gently caressed her slightly protruding abdomen, feeling the miracle of life brewing and growing within. "Don't touch me," she shrieked at him hysterically, her voice filled with anger and despair. This news struck her like a bolt from the blue, like a clap of thunder, plunging her into endless torment. An unspeakable sorrow clouded her eyes, tears welling up, threatening to spill over at any moment. Her body trembled slightly, as if all strength had drained from her. At this moment, time seemed to freeze, the entire world falling into profound silence. Only her shattered heart continued to bleed. She hated him, a hatred that stung like her heart was pressed against thorns. Her eyes were dark and desolate, gleaming with resentment. The man's gaze locked onto her, and he slowly squatted down to meet her at eye level, his eyes showing deep concern. His voice was low and hoarse. Whatever you have to say, speak slowly. Don't get agitated, okay?" Her slightly trembling lips finally parted slowly. However, the voice that emerged from them was tinged with a choke. "Fu Shiyue, just go. I really don't want to see you anymore." After learning the truth behind everything, Xie Shiyun's heart was filled with endless pain and regret. She couldn't forgive what he had done to her, nor could she forgive herself for falling in love with such a man. What made her even more desperate was that she was pregnant with the child of the person she hated most. Why? Why was fate so cruel to her? Every word was like a sharp sword, deeply piercing her heart. Tears welled in her eyes, but she fought hard to hold them back. Her gaze revealed despair and sorrow, as if her entire world had collapsed. Fu Shiyue watched her silently, a complex emotion flickering in his eyes. He knew he had utterly broken her heart, and at this moment, he didn't know how to face the woman he had hurt so deeply. In the silence, time seemed to solidify. Finally, Fu Shiyue turned and left, leaving Xie Shiyun alone. She watched his receding figure, the pain in her heart intensifying. She didn't understand why love had become such a tragedy, why they had reached this point. Just as Fu Shiyue was about to step out of the hospital room, he suddenly stopped, then turned around. His hoarse voice carried a hint of morbid obsession. "I will never let you leave me, no matter what." He continued, "I will use my entire life to compensate you for the hurt and suffering you've endured. I've asked an auntie to come take care of you. Give me some time. It won't be long before I come to take you home myself." After saying these words, Fu Shiyue slowly walked out of the room, closing the door behind him. However, just as the door closed, he spoke again, instructing, "Remember, watch Miss carefully these next few days. If she shows any abnormal or sudden conditions, you must report it to me immediately." The two men in black suits and sunglasses standing beside him nodded slightly in respect, then silently turned and departed. Their steps were steady and firm, as if their master's orders were long accustomed. However, for the male protagonist, this was just a minor interlude. At this moment, a blaze of fury burned within him. He had a more important matter to attend to. That was to find his so-called good brother and settle accounts properly. This thought, like a venomous snake, coiled persistently in his mind. Gradually, his eyes grew sharper and more resolute, as if he wanted to cleave everything in the world apart. He knew well that this struggle would be exceptionally difficult, but he was not afraid. However, what he never expected was that he would commit such an incredibly foolish act, to harm the person he loved most by his side. The man's grim expression remained unpleasant, and a heavy aura of hostility emanated from his entire being. In the hospital room, Xie Shiyun was left alone. She sat up, her movements light and slow, as if afraid of disturbing something. She leaned quietly against the pillow, wearing a loose hospital gown. Her complexion, which should have appeared pale, instead gained a touch of delicate vulnerability due to her beautiful face, though even so, it barely concealed the lack of color in her cheeks. Sunlight streamed through the window, casting a faint glow over her. However, this glow didn't make her seem more lively. Instead, it made her appear even more fragile and helpless. Her hands trembled slightly as she slowly and gently covered her stomach with her palm, her eyes revealing an unspeakably complex emotion. She softly whispered, "Child, do you know? You shouldn't have come into this world, and I." Just as she was lost in thought, staring blankly, The room door was suddenly pushed open gently, and a figure entered. It was a middle-aged woman, appearing to be in her late 40s or 50s. She walked steadily towards Xie Shiyun with a smile, saying in a gentle voice, "Hello, miss. I am the caregiver, Mr. Fu, specifically hired to look after your daily needs. I hope I can provide you with the best care and attention in the coming days." After speaking, the woman gave her a kind and amiable smile that felt especially warm. But none of this brought her comfort or reassurance. On the contrary, her heart was filled with unease and helplessness. At this moment, she found herself unable to escape, as if confined by an invisible force. She felt trapped in a cage, stripped of her freedom. Just then, the auntie nearby gently said, "Miss, you are too thin. You really must eat more. The baby in your belly needs enough nutrition too. Please wait a moment. I'll go prepare some delicious food for you now." After speaking, the auntie turned and left, leaving Xie Shiyun alone in silence. She got out of bed, opened the door, only to find two men in black blocking her way. "Miss, forgive us, but you cannot leave without Mr. Fu's order," they stated in mechanical voices. A wave of sorrow swept through Xie Shiyun's heart. She hadn't realized she had lost even her freedom now. She returned to the hospital bed, lay down, and pretended to sleep with her eyes closed. She didn't know how much time had passed when she heard the door open, thinking it was the auntie bringing food. "Why are you here? What do you want?" Xie Shiyun opened her eyes and saw that it was Fu Shiyue, her face filled with disgust. Fu Shiyue walked to the bedside without a word and sat down, reaching out to gently caress Xie Shiyun's face, his eyes full of guilt and heartache. "What exactly do you want?" Xie Shiyun turned her head away, avoiding his hand. "Ayun, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I've put you through so much. But please believe me, I will make everything go back to how it was." Fu Shiyue's voice held a hint of pleading. Xie Shiyun scoffed. "Go back to how it was? Can we ever go back to before?" Fu Shiyue's gaze hardened. "I will prove it to you with my actions." With that, he stood up, preparing to leave. "Wait!" Xie Shiyun called out to him. Fu Shiyue turned back, a flicker of expectation in his eyes. "What do you call this, holding me captive here?" Xie Shiyun's tone was full of anger. Fu Shiyue sighed. "I just want to protect you and the baby's safety. It's not safe outside right now. After some time, I'll take you home." He half-squatted, saying gently, "I'm not trying to imprison you. I just want you to be well." A resounding slap landed on his face, without the slightest hesitation, sharp and full of anger. As the slap landed, it shattered her affection for him. All her love vanished with that single blow. "Get out." She didn't want to see him now, not one bit. Fu Shiyue knew she didn't want to see him, and wisely left. He clenched his jaw tightly, enduring the physical pain, but his heart was filled with worry and agony for her. Her pain was like a sharp sword, deeply piercing his heart. She hurt, but he hurt more than her. "Ayun, do you know?" Under the hospital's stark white lights, the corridor of the hospital ward appeared exceptionally desolate and quiet. At this moment, he stood there, his left hand clenched tightly into a fist, his right hand weakly propped against the cold, hard wall. His head was bowed, his eyes fixed on the ground, each breath heavy with exhaustion. Finally, he could bear it no longer, and a mouthful of fresh blood gushed from his mouth. The blood was so vivid a red, as if it would dye the entire world crimson. His body trembled slightly, as if battling some invisible power. Each breath came with a heavy gasp, as if his lungs were about to burst from pressure. The deep, dark night, like boundless thick ink, heavily painted across the sky, leaving not even a glimmer of starlight. Just then, Fu Shiyue's phone on the table suddenly rang. He quickly picked it up and pressed the answer button. "What is it?" A low and anxious voice came from the other end of the line. "Sir, this is bad. Miss, she's gone. We've searched the entire hospital and can't find her anywhere," the man in black said with a tense tone. Fu Shiyue's brows instantly furrowed, a wave of unease surging in his heart. He asked, "Where was Miss last seen? Are there any clues?" Miss said she needed to use the restroom urgently at the time. The auntie accompanied her. "When we went to look, we only found the auntie unconscious in the restroom. Miss must have knocked the auntie out. She seemed to be on the phone with someone at the time, but we don't know the exact content. After that, we found she was gone, and her phone was also left in the restroom, the man in black replied. Shiyue pondered for a moment, various possibilities flashing through his mind. He immediately took action and told the man in black, "Arrange people immediately. Start searching the vicinity. I'll be right there." With that, he hung up the phone, stood up, and left in a hurry. Shiyue was burning with anxiety, mobilizing everyone in the Fu family to search. His eyes were filled with anxiety and worry, as if he had lost something most precious. He personally led a group of people, searching every corner of the city for traces of the female lead. He scoured every street and every alley, meticulously searching for any clue related to Xie Shiyun. His steps were hurried yet firm, with only one thought in his mind: to find the female lead as soon as possible. He kept dialing her number, but it remained unanswered. This made his heart even heavier, worried that she might be in danger. During the search, Shiyue continuously recalled every little moment he had spent with the female lead. He remembered her past smiles and gentleness, which made him even more anxious. He didn't know where she was now or if she was safe, and this unknown fear caused him immense pain. He secretly vowed that he would find her, no matter the cost. As time went on, weariness showed on Shiyue's face. "Xiaoyun, is there any news of her?" His hand was pressed tightly against his temple, as if to suppress the throbbing pain. His eyes revealed a hint of weariness and anxiety. He seemed to have waited a long time, yet still held great hope. He slowly closed his eyes, recalling every little detail of their time together. Her smile, her gentleness, her wisdom, all beautiful memories kept surfacing in his mind. However, now he could only obtain news about her by asking others, and this feeling of powerlessness made him incredibly frustrated. After a while, he took a deep breath, opened his eyes again, and looked ahead with determined gaze. No matter what, he would not give up searching for her whereabouts. As long as there was a glimmer of hope, he would persevere, because in his heart, she was so important, worth everything he had to pursue. "I just checked the hospital surveillance." She left the hospital, flagged down a car by the road, and headed north. Shiyue, go immediately and find out where that car went, as fast as possible. On the steep cliff by the sea, a woman in a snow-white dress seemed to blend with her surroundings, exuding a sense of purity and tranquility. The sea breeze gently brushed her hair, and her dress swayed in the wind, like a dancing fairy. She stood barefoot and steadily at the edge of the cliff, without the slightest fear or hesitation. Her gaze was firm and deep, seemingly staring at the distant sea, yet also as if contemplating something. Her figure appeared exceptionally radiant in the sunlight, emanating a unique charm. Sunlight spilled onto the sea's surface, shimmering and sparkling with golden light. Waves crashed against the cliffs, roaring, as if telling the woman stories of the sea. Yet she listened silently, without a word. The sea wind whistled past, sweeping over her body, making her appear so natural and at ease. Her hair was disheveled by the wind, but it added a different kind of fragile beauty. "Shiyue, we've found the driver." The news from the other end of the phone made his heart race instantly. He said he took Shiyun to the seaside. The seaside? An ominous premonition surged in his heart, as if a cold hand had tightly gripped his heart. Nothing bad happened, did it? Not daring to think further, he hung up the phone and immediately stomped on the accelerator, driving the car rapidly towards the sea. The wheels sped on the road, kicking up a cloud of dust. His gaze was focused and urgent, with only one thought in his mind: to get to the seaside as quickly as possible and find Shiyun. Time passed minute by minute, and finally, the vast sea came into view. He stopped the car, quickly jumped out, and stumbled towards the beach. The sea wind whistled past his ears, mixed with a salty taste. Waves crashed against the shore, roaring, as if telling some story. He looked around, his gaze anxiously searching for Shiyun's figure. With every wave that broke, he hoped to see her standing there safe and sound, but each time was met with disappointment. "Ayun, where are you?" He loudly called her name, his voice echoing in the sea wind. However, the only reply he received was the roar of the waves and the wailing of the wind. Fear gradually enveloped his heart, and he began to feel helpless and despairing. Had something truly unfortunate happened? No, he refused to believe it. He told himself to calm down and carefully look for clues. He walked step by step along the beach, paying attention to every place where traces might be left. Suddenly, he discovered some unusual footprints, extending towards the distant cluster of reefs. A glimmer of hope surged in his heart, and he quickened his pace, following the footprints. When he arrived at the steep seaside cliff, the sight before him made his heart sink sharply. He saw her, Xie Shiyun, standing quietly on the edge of a cliff, her face as pale as paper. His heart felt as if it had fallen into an ice cellar. His trembling fingers gently touched her cheek, feeling her faint breath. Ayun. He reached out, wanting to touch her. He looked at her, carefully trying to speak, his voice seemingly caught in his throat, bitter and harsh. Is there really no possibility for us anymore? They stood so close, yet it felt as if a century separated them. Xie Shiyun's lips twitched slightly, wanting to laugh aloud, but only silent sobs emerged, carrying a hint of coldness. Shiyue, may we never meet again in this life. Her voice was cold and resolute, as if carrying endless sorrow and despair. After saying this, she slowly turned around, facing him. Her eyes were empty and bewildered, seemingly having lost all vitality and vigor. She stood there silently, unmoving, like a statue. Suddenly, she spread her arms, as if to embrace the whole world. Then, slowly, gently, she leaned backward. Her movement was so light, like a feather drifting in the wind. As her body tilted backward, her long hair also lifted, like black silk dancing in the air. There was no fear or hesitation on her face, only an expression of relief and release, as if she had decided to let go of everything and move towards the unknown shore. In that instant, time seemed to freeze. Shiyue's eyes widened, watching everything that was happening before him. His heart was filled with shock and disbelief. He wanted to rush over and pull her back, but it was too late. Watching her body get closer and closer to the sea surface, Shiyue's breathing quickened. His eyes were hollow and lifeless, his face filled with despair. His legs gave way, and he fell to his knees on the ground, a low, tragic roar escaping his throat. The sound seemed to come from the depths of his soul, filled with endless pain and sorrow, moving anyone who heard it. Xie Shiyun, why? He murmured, his eyes revealing deep incomprehension and confusion. He didn't understand. He had clearly given so much, so why did she choose to escape? Were all his efforts so insignificant in her eyes? As he thought, his heart grew even more bitter. Every little detail from the past surged into his mind like a tide. The beautiful times they spent together, the storms they weathered together. But now, she had left him, even to the point of using death to force his hand. What was even harder for him to accept was that at this very moment, she was carrying his child. Yet even so, she still chose to leave without hesitation. Why was this? He simply couldn't understand, only feeling as if his heart had been pierced by thousands of fine needles at once. Pain so intense he could barely breathe. He suddenly felt a sweetness in his throat, and a warm liquid flowed from the corner of his mouth. Looking down, he saw it was bright red blood. His heart jolted in alarm, and he wanted to raise his hand to wipe it, but found his body had become incredibly heavy, as if burdened by 1,000 caddies. At this moment, Yun was rushing towards them, burning with anxiety. His steps were faltering and unsteady, his eyes filled with anxiety and worry. When he finally arrived at the scene, he only saw Shiyue collapsed on the ground, but Xie Shiyun was nowhere to be seen. As he walked closer and saw the boundless sea before him, he instantly understood everything. Yun's face instantly turned ashen white, his eyes wide, looking at everything before him in disbelief. His lips trembled, but he couldn't utter a single word. How could this happen? Yun murmured, his voice filled with pain and despair. He couldn't accept this reality. Just a moment ago, they were both fine. How could they be separated by life and death in the blink of an eye? He slowly raised his head, his gaze falling upon Shiyue. He saw Shiyue with his eyes tightly closed, a trace of blood still on his face. Yun took a deep breath, trying to calm himself down. Then, he quickly rushed Shiyue to a private hospital. On the night after Shiyue had been in a coma for 2 weeks, he quietly leaned half against the window, gazing into the distance, his mind filled with a myriad of thoughts. Her figure lingered in his mind, every detail so clear. A cigarette was held between his right index and middle fingers, smoke slowly rising, blending with the night. His expression was focused and contemplative. In the ethereal, hazy smoke, he seemed to see her figure. He paused, then curled his lips into a self-mocking smile. He took a gentle puff, the smoke filling his mouth before slowly exhaling it. His smoking motion was smooth and natural, as if it were a way for him to release stress. The wind brushed his face, stirring his hair. He smoked unhurriedly, as if time had stopped at that moment. Enveloped in smoke, his figure appeared lonely yet resolute, as if bearing the weight of the entire world. He recalled her smile, a warm and captivating smile that seemed capable of dispelling all gloom. Despite their past differences in personality, deep in his heart, he had always cherished the woman who haunted his dreams and whom he could never forget. Her image was like a wisp of smoke, lingering in his mind. No matter how time flowed, it could not erase the deep imprint she left in his heart. This love was like a burning flame, ardent and enduring, never extinguishing. Just then, Xie Shiyun walked in, a hint of helplessness on his face. Then, he gently patted Fu Shiyue's shoulder, comforting him. I've dispatched some skilled divers to search for her underwater. They are all experienced hands, but so far, there's been no news of her. Xie Yun's voice was low and firm, as if trying his best to convey a sense of reassurance. However, his eyes revealed a hint of worry and uneasiness. After all, the underwater environment is unpredictable, and searching for a missing person is not easy. Every second of waiting felt like a burning anxiety, and the passage of time only added to the tension. Fu Shiyue clenched his fists tightly. We must find her. I want to bring her home. I absolutely cannot let her stay alone in that cold, bone-chilling, bottomless sea. As time flowed by little, month after month passed. Yet, no news of Xie Shiyun ever came. It was as if she had completely vanished from this world, leaving no trace. And among all, the most tormented and suffering person was Fu Shiyue. On countless silent, deserted nights, when moonlight poured like water through the window, he would involuntarily fall into deep thought. And in this boundless ocean of thoughts, one face remained vividly clear, that of Xie Shiyun. Her countenance shone like the brightest star in the night sky, deeply etched into the depths of his heart. Every time he recalled the moments spent with her, an indescribable wave of emotion surged within him. Late at night, the city's clamor was gradually covered by the shroud of night, but the bar was still brightly lit and bustling with people. Fu Shiyue sat alone at a seat by the bar counter. He tilted his head slightly and downed the glass of wine in his hand. The pungent liquid slid down his throat, bringing a burning sensation. Fu Shiyue couldn't help but let out a self-mocking laugh. You'll leave me, even unto death. His voice was low and tinged with sorrow, as if this sentence had echoed in his heart countless times. The bar's lights were dim and hazy, illuminating Fu Shiyue's tired yet handsome face. His eyes revealed a deep sense of helplessness and despair, as if all hope had been extinguished. Memories surged like a tide. Fu Shiyue recalled the beautiful times they had shared. Those sweet moments had now become sharp blades piercing his heart, making it impossible for him to let go. Her departure was like a nightmare, still lingering in his heart to this day. Fu Shiyue silently gazed at the empty wine glass in his hand, his thoughts slowly drifting away. He began to wonder if he truly understood her, if he had given her the happiness she desired. Perhaps, all along, he had only loved her presumptuously, never truly entering her inner world. However, now it was all too late. She chose to leave, walking out of his life without a trace of nostalgia. Fu Shiyue felt like a ship that had lost its way, drifting on the vast ocean, unable to find the lighthouse on the other shore. As time passed, the music in the bar grew louder, people indulging in the revelry and joy brought by nightlife. But Fu Shiyue was immersed in his own sorrow, a stark contrast to the surrounding liveliness. He didn't know what to do to make her willing to come back to him, but now it was all too late. After returning, he slowly entered his home, his eyes hollow as he looked at everything familiar yet strange before him. The entire room was empty, devoid of any life. He silently walked to the dining table, picked up the wine bottle from it, and skillfully twisted open the cap. Then, he tilted his head back and gulped the wine directly from the bottle down his throat. The pungent liquid, like flames, burned his throat and stomach. However, he seemed to feel no pain at all, merely numbly and mechanically repeating the action. Soon, one bottle of wine was drained to the bottom. He extended a trembling hand, picked up another bottle of wine from beside him, and continued to pour it frantically into his mouth. At this moment, he seemed to be cut off from the world, immersed in his endless pain. Every drop of wine was like a sharp sword, mercilessly piercing his soul, yet he could not stop this self-destructive behavior. The alcohol did not seem to make him forget his troubles. Instead, it made his mood even heavier. He raised his head, staring at the ceiling, an unspeakable sense of loss welling up in his heart. As if all strength had left him, he slowly slid down the wall to the floor. He curled up, burying his head between his knees, as if that could help him escape the pain of reality. However, that feeling of loss surged like a tide into his heart, making it impossible for him to breathe. Xie Shiyun, Xie Shiyun. He kept mumbling the name, as if possessed. In his dreams, he met her again and again. She stood quietly before him, gazing at him expressionlessly, her eyes revealing an indescribable coldness. He tried to approach her, wanting to touch her face, but found his body seemed bound by an invisible force, unable to move. And her figure began to blur, seemingly double-imaged. Immediately after, she slowly started to retreat, moving further and further away from him. He desperately wanted to chase after her, but could not take a single step. He could only watch helplessly as her figure gradually disappeared into the distant horizon, until she was completely gone. That feeling was as if a part of his life had also departed with her, leaving him with immense pain and loss. Meanwhile, in a high-end hospital in Yunqing, a woman lay quietly in a hospital bed, wearing a loose patient gown. The gown hung loosely on her emaciated body, making her appear even more fragile and helpless. Her face was as pale as a sheet of white paper, without a trace of color, and her lips had lost their original redness, becoming dull and lifeless. Her eyes were tightly closed, as if she wanted to sleep, but also as if just to escape reality. Long eyelashes cast a faint shadow on her cheeks, eliciting a feeling of pity. Her hand was tightly held by a man beside her. His fingers trembled slightly, as if trying to convey his strength and warmth. His eyes were filled with pain and worry, his brows tightly furrowed, his lips pressed into a thin line, silently guarding the weak woman before him. "Mom, Mom, look at me, look at me. I haven't even had a chance to see this wonderful world yet," was mercilessly sent away. A crystalline tear silently slipped from the corner of her eye, like a brilliant pearl, slowly flowing down her pale cheek. This tear seemed to carry boundless sorrow and grief, as if it were the outward manifestation of the inexpressible pain deep within her. It gently fell, yet left a faint tear stain in the air, like an invisible scar deeply etched upon her face. Her eyes slowly opened, as if waking from a long dream. Her vision gradually cleared, and she began to survey the completely unfamiliar surroundings. The room was filled with a faint scent of disinfectant, and the white walls appeared particularly stark. She felt a wave of confusion and bewilderment, unsure of where she was. The man who had been silently guarding her side finally let out a sigh of relief. He stared intently at her, his eyes full of concern and anticipation. The moment he saw her open her eyes, an indescribable joy and excitement surged within him. His lips trembled slightly. He wanted to say something, but didn't know where to begin. After a while, the man came to his senses and quickly pressed the call bell by the bedside, his voice tinged with urgency. Soon, doctors and nurses rushed in. They gathered around the bed, carefully examining her physical condition. The man stood aside, anxiously watching everything, his hands unconsciously clenched. "She's mostly fine, but we still need to observe her closely. Previously, she suffered significant emotional trauma, resulting in temporary amnesia. Coupled with the miscarriage, both her physical and mental states are very weak, and she needs a good period of rest and recuperation," the doctor said with a solemn expression. After saying these words, The doctor gently patted the man's shoulder, signaling him to step out of the ward with him. The man nodded silently, then closely followed behind the doctor. They both arrived at the ward entrance. The doctor stopped, turned around, and instructed again. During this period, you must ensure she maintains a cheerful mood and avoid anything that might cause emotional fluctuations. Also, pay special attention to her diet. Give her more nutritious and easily digestible food. The man listened carefully to every word from the doctor, nodding repeatedly to show understanding. After the doctor had given all instructions, the man watched him leave the ward. Xie Shiyun slowly sat up, still silent. Her gaze was somewhat lost, as if she hadn't fully awakened from her coma. "Are you feeling better? Have something to eat." A gentle voice came. Xie Shiyun looked up and saw a strange man standing by the bed, holding a steaming bowl of porridge. The man's eyes revealed concern and worry, but Xie Shiyun felt a hint of wariness. She scrutinized the man, trying to find some familiar clues from his appearance and demeanor. However, her mind was blank. She knew nothing about why she was there or the man's identity. With wary eyes, she finally spoke, asking, "Who are you? Why am I here?" He put down the bowl of porridge, slowly walked to the bedside, and sat down, gently explaining. "Can you really not remember anything? My name is Su Yan." His tone was earnest and sincere as he looked at her, trying to make Xie Shiyun relax. Xie Shiyun listened with some confusion, but her inner guard did not lessen. She thought to herself, this man didn't seem like a bad person, but how did she suddenly collapse on the beach? Moreover, she had no memory whatsoever of her current situation or past events. All sorts of questions flooded her mind, causing her a wave of unease. She stared intently into the man's eyes and pressed on. "Then why did I faint? What happened to me before? I can't seem to remember anything." As she spoke, her voice involuntarily trembled, revealing her inner fear and helplessness. Suddenly, her hand unconsciously rested on her flat stomach, gently caressing it. Feeling the smooth skin of her abdomen, a complex emotion surged within her. "Your name is Xie, and you are the cherished daughter of the Xie family. However, fate was cruel. You were abducted when you were young and innocent, and have been separated from your family ever since. As years passed, the Xie family never gave up searching for your whereabouts. They inquired everywhere, tirelessly seeking, only wishing to reunite with their beloved daughter who had been missing for years. Over these years, they experienced countless disappointments and setbacks, yet their concern and longing for you grew stronger in their hearts. Every night, they would silently pray, hoping heaven would keep you safe. Every time they received a clue, they would embark on the search without hesitation, never giving up even if hope was slim. During this long wait and search, the Xie family members gradually grew old, but their unwavering love never changed. Su Yan recounted slowly and steadily, his voice low and magnetic. "You said, 'My name is Xie. I have family.'" He first nodded in affirmation, then continued, "Just a few days ago, we found you collapsed on the beach. At that time, you were covered in blood. Later, after DNA comparison, we discovered that you are the child they have been desperately searching for all these years." As Su Yan spoke, he gazed at her bloodless, extremely pale face, and finally couldn't help but utter the latter half of the sentence. "It's deeply regrettable that the baby in your belly is gone. The Xie family of Yunqing. You said, the child has been found? Is that true?" Several people were sitting together, and when they heard the butler's report, they could hardly believe their ears. The old master's face flushed with excitement, clutching his cane tightly, and shakily stood up. Tears glistened in his eyes, his lips trembled slightly, as if he wanted to say something, but was too overwhelmed with emotion to articulate it. His body leaned slightly forward, as if he wanted to rush out the door immediately to find his granddaughter. "Where was she found? Take me there quickly," Old Master Xie said, his face filled with anxiety. Hearing this, the butler immediately stepped forward to support Old Master Xie and comforted him, saying, "Master, please don't rush. The young lady is currently at Yunqing First People's Hospital. The doctor said she's out of danger, and it's good that she's out of danger." Old Master Xie interrupted the butler, eagerly asking, "How is she now? Is she injured?" "Master, The young lady only sustained some minor superficial injuries, nothing serious. I heard it was young Master Xie Shiyun who saved her, and he's been taking care of her ever since, the butler replied. Xie Shiyun. Old Master Xie frowned, pondering for a moment before realization dawned on him. Oh, it's Xie Shiyun from the Xie group? This young man is quite good. Yes, Master. Young Master Xie Shiyun not only saved the young lady, but has also been meticulously caring for her, the butler chimed in. Old Master Xie nodded in satisfaction. The next morning, Old Master Xie rushed to the hospital. Xie Lianzhou, who had flown back overnight from abroad, immediately accompanied the old master to the hospital without delay after landing. Grandpa, won't rushing in like this scare little sister? Let me go in and ask about the situation first. Xie Lianzhou was Xie Zi's elder brother. For years, he had been abroad, but he had also been inquiring about his sister's whereabouts. Upon hearing the news of her being found, he immediately returned from abroad. The old master quickly nodded. Lianzhou, for all these years, Grandpa has been searching for your sister, but there's been no result. This time, Grandpa really wants to see her. Okay, Grandpa, I understand. Then let's go see little sister together. The old master nodded. Xie Lianzhou helped the old master to a nearby chair, then bent down and gently patted the old master's trembling hand, saying, Grandpa, calm down. Make sure not to scare little sister later. Although he was verbally reassuring the old master, his own heart was also surging with excitement. His poor sister was actually still alive in this world. Back then, they had searched all over Yunqing, turning everything upside down to find her, but he never expected she had been in launching all this time. Grandpa, hello, I am Xie Shiyun. Hearing the voice, Xie Lianzhou and the old master both looked over. In the corridor, a tall, slender man was slowly walking towards Xie Lianzhou and the old master with elegant steps. He wore a pristine white shirt, paired with straight black trousers and polished leather shoes. He appeared neat, refined, and distinguished. The delicate gold-rimmed glasses on his nose not only added to his scholarly aura, but also gave one the impression of his profound knowledge and gentle demeanor. You are Xie Shiyun? The old master looked at the man before him. You're the one who saved my granddaughter? Xie. I'll go in and see her. Xie Lianzhou said in a low voice and prepared to push the door open. Wait. Xie Shiyun stopped him. Xie has lost some of her memory. She might not remember you. Please don't agitate her. Xie Lianzhou looked coldly at Xie Shiyun. I don't need you to remind me of that. I'm perfectly aware. Inside the ward, Xie Zi saw the two strangers who had suddenly appeared, and her heart was filled with doubt and fear. Who are you? Her voice carried a hint of wariness. Xie Lianzhou stepped forward and grasped Xie Zi's hand. Zi, I'm your brother. Don't you remember me? Xie Zi looked at the handsome man before her, her mind a blank. Brother? I don't know you. The old master also quickly stepped forward. Zi, I'm your grandpa. You loved playing with Grandpa when you were little. Don't you remember? The old master looked at her appearance, which was practically identical to that of the young Xie Ling back then, as if carved from the same mold. Xie Zi tried hard to recall, her head throbbing. I can't remember anything. My head hurts so much. Xie Shiyun took long strides forward, opened his arms, and tightly embraced her. He felt the slight trembling of her body in his arms, as if she were enveloped by endless fear. He whispered in a low and gentle voice, Don't be afraid, Xie. They are your closest family, your grandpa and your brother. They have been searching for you for years, and now they've finally found you. All these years, you've been drifting outside, and they never gave up looking for you. Now, you've finally reunited. His hand gently stroked her hair, as if conveying a warm and calming strength. His gaze was full of tenderness and pity as he continued to whisper. Everything is in the past now. You are safe. Now, you've returned to your own home, with your loved ones by your side. They will give you care, support, and protection, allowing you to feel the warmth of family again. He gently patted her back, hoping to offer her more comfort. The old master sat quietly beside her, his eyes filled with endless tenderness and love. He softly said, Child, perhaps you truly cannot immediately accept this fact, but this is an undeniable truth. The blood of our Xie family flows in your veins. She gazed at the old master's expression, and a feeling both strange and familiar welled up in her heart. Her voice trembled slightly as she responded, "You are my family." Her fingers slowly pointed to herself, as if wanting to confirm if all of this was real. The old master nodded gently, a glint of tears in his eyes. He slowly extended his rough hand and gently stroked her hair, as if telling her that all of this was real. His voice, weathered by time, said, "Yes, child, you are our long-lost kin of the Xie family." Her gaze gradually became bewildered, and various questions and confusions continuously surfaced in her mind. This sudden news made her feel lost, and a complex mixture of emotions surged within her. However, under the old master's warm gaze, she felt an inexplicable sense of closeness and care. After a moment of silence, she took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. She looked at the old master, her eyes shining with a resolute light. "I need time, and please, take it slow with me." The old master smiled slightly. He knew the girl before him needed time to accept and understand everything. He decided to take a long-term approach, slowly recounting the family's story and history to her. So, he began to narrate, telling the tale of the Xie family. Before that, the old master had 2 daughters and 1 son. The eldest daughter Xie, the second daughter Shiyue, and the youngest son Xie Shiyun. His eldest daughter, Xie, fell in love with a man from an ordinary family named Lu Qi, a common man with no status or money. Back then, defying his opposition, she insisted on marrying him. Later, they were separated, and he also met with an accident. At that time, Xie had already given birth to Xie and Lianzhou. Later, Xie also left with Lu Qi, leaving only the 2 siblings. The brother was brought back by the Xie family, but the sister was lost and her whereabouts unknown. As the old master spoke, he lowered his head. He had always felt guilty about that child, a feeling that had lingered in his heart for years, hard to let go of, constantly thinking of her. He only hoped that in his lifetime, he could find her whereabouts and let her return to the family and acknowledge her ancestors. After all, that child had Lingling's blood flowing in her veins. She was also the flesh and blood of the Xie family. Upon hearing this, Xie's eyes welled up, and tears streamed down her face. So, her parents were like this. "Child, I'm sorry for what I did to you and your brother. I've been atoning for my sins all these years. Now that I've found you, I hope you can forgive Grandpa." Xie stared intently at the old man before her, her eyes flickering with complex emotions. She could never forget that it was this man who ruthlessly tore her parents apart back then, forcing them to separate. Because of this, she and her brother had spent years apart, and it all seemed intricately linked to the old man before her. Every time she recalled that unbearable past, endless sorrow and resentment would well up in Xie's heart. She had fantasized countless times in her dreams about reuniting with her parents, the family together, living a happy life. However, reality was so cruel. She not only lost the companionship of her parents, but also had to face the culprit who had once destroyed her family. Yet, her grandpa had already recognized his mistake. Moreover, he was now in his twilight years, nearly 60 years old and frail. How could she hold resentment against such a helpless, dying old man? After all, everyone makes mistakes, let alone an old and frail person. Forgiving others' mistakes is not only a noble virtue, but also a life wisdom. Perhaps we should treat this old man with tolerance and understanding, letting him feel the warmth and kindness of the world. Doing so might also bring some peace to her own heart. At this moment, Xie's heart felt as if it were being torn apart by an invisible force. She didn't know how to face the old man before her. Anger, resentment, pain, all these emotions intertwined, making her almost unable to breathe. But she deeply understood that the past could not be changed. She had to learn to let go of hatred, step out of the shadows, and restart her life. "Grandpa, I won't blame you," she said, looking at the old master. Suyin stood quietly by her side, his gaze focused and deep, as if the entire world contained only her. He was tall and well-built, dressed in a simple shirt and trousers, yet exuded a unique aura. His eyes revealed a faint tenderness and concern, like the warm sun in winter, gentle and not scorching. "Xie, I will always be by your side from now on." He spoke slowly in a soft and gentle tone, as if afraid of breaking the peaceful atmosphere around them. His voice was like a gentle breeze caressing the strings of a zither. The happiest thing is undoubtedly to reunite with family, feeling the deep affection and warmth. However, at this joyful moment, not everyone can enjoy the same happiness. Some eagerly anticipate reuniting with loved ones, while others are suffering immensely from loss. Xie, my beloved granddaughter, is back now. At the Xie family's dinner party, the lights were brilliant, and the entire family, young and old, gathered in the spacious and bright hall, filled with continuous laughter and cheer. This was a special gathering, held to celebrate the return of the Xie family's granddaughter. The magnificent dining table was laden with abundant dishes, their tantalizing aroma making mouths water. Family members, dressed in festive attire, conversed with beaming smiles, their eyes filled with anticipation and love for their granddaughter. Old Mr. Xie sat at the head of the table. Though advanced in age, he was vigorous and looked at everyone with kind eyes. He coughed lightly, and the entire room immediately quieted down. Today, our Xie family gathers together to celebrate the return of my beloved granddaughter. Old Mr. Xie said in a loud voice, his face brimming with pride and joy. Everyone applauded in welcome. She wore a snow-white long dress, cinched at the waist with a light pink sash, accentuating her slender waist. Her beautiful, raven-black hair cascaded down like a waterfall, gently brushing her shoulders. Xie walked towards her family with a smile, each step light and graceful. Her eyes revealed her longing and gratitude for her family. Grandpa, thank you for hosting this dinner. I'm so happy to be back in this warm home, Xie said softly as she walked to old Mr. Xie's side. Old Mr. Xie stroked his granddaughter's hair and nodded contentedly. It's good that you're back. From now on, this will be your safe harbor. No matter what difficulties you encounter, our Xie family will support you. Family members also came forward to greet her warmly, expressing their concern and blessings. The entire dinner party was lively and warm, filled with the warmth of family and the strength of kinship. Xie, now that you're back, you should also go to the company to learn and help your brother manage it. Old Mr. Xie looked at Xie Lianzhou and Xie before him with loving eyes. He slowly reached out, took both their hands, squeezed them firmly, and then spoke earnestly. Children, in our vast company today, we can only rely on the two of you, siblings. You must protect it well. His voice was deep and resonant, as if containing endless power and expectation. After speaking, old Mr. Xie gently patted the back of their hands, seemingly wanting to convey all his trust to them. The siblings nodded. Meanwhile, night descended upon Nanxing, and Fu Shiyue was still as before, as if he had lost his soul, no longer caring much about company matters. He hid at home all day, isolating himself from the outside world. The room's curtains were tightly drawn, not letting in a single ray of light, plunging the entire room into endless darkness. Fu Shiyue sat quietly by the bed, his body trembling slightly. His eyes were vacant and lifeless, as if he had lost all vitality. Large and small wine bottles were scattered on the floor, and the air was thick with the pungent smell of alcohol. For days now, he had been numbing himself with alcohol every day, trying to forget those painful memories. But each time he woke up, the pain in his heart grew deeper. Fu Shiyue, who hadn't seen sunlight for a long time, was as pale as paper. His hair was disheveled, and his clothes were wrinkled. The once vibrant and confident man had vanished, replaced by a decaying, despondent shell. He was immersed in his own world, unable to extricate himself, letting time pass, and his life becoming increasingly chaotic. Just then, a tall and upright figure slowly walked in. It was Xiao Yun, his steps steady and strong. He walked to the window and slowly pulled open the heavy curtains. In an instant, the sunlight from outside flooded into the room like a tide, illuminating the entire space. And this bright light, like a sharp sword piercing through the darkness, shone directly onto Fu Shiyue. The light was so dazzling that he couldn't help but squint, trying to avoid the intense glare. However, no matter how hard he tried, the light clung to him like a shadow, making him feel incredibly harsh and uncomfortable. Fu Shiyue instinctively raised his hands, trying to block the scorching sunlight. His palms overlapped before his eyes, but could only slightly alleviate some of the discomfort. Sunlight stubbornly spilled onto his face through the gaps between his fingers, as if mocking his futile efforts. His brows furrowed tightly, his lips pressed into a thin line, and a surge of irritation welled up in his heart. "What are you here for?" His agitated voice rang out, reeking of alcohol, as if he were completely submerged in a world of drink, unable to extricate himself. "Do you intend to go on like this?" Shiyue. He widened his eyes, looking at the man before him in disbelief, his anger instantly ignited. He took a step forward, gripped Shiyue's collar tightly, shaking him forcefully, his voice tinged with despair and fury. "Shiyue, is this how you repay Shiyun? She's gone, and you. Do you want her to be restless even in the afterlife?" Shiyue's eyes were hazy and empty, as if he had lost all vitality. He muttered to himself, completely unaware that someone was speaking to him. His hand trembled slightly, and the liquid from his wine glass spilled onto the floor, forming a mottled stain. "Snap out of it," he roared, trying to awaken Shiyue's reason. However, Shiyue only gave him a blank look, then lowered his head again and continued to drink the wine in his hand. He felt a surge of helplessness and sorrow. The former Shiyue had been so formidable, but now he had become so decadent and despondent. Shiyun's departure had dealt him too great a blow, so much so that he couldn't emerge from the shadow, couldn't face reality. He knew that Shiyue needed time to heal, but he also worried that if this continued, Shiyue would completely lose himself. "Yun, I don't believe she's gone. She must be angry with me, and once her anger subsides, she'll come back to me." He never believed she was dead. She must still be in this world. Not dead, not dead. Xiaoyan stood before him, looking at him, and said with firm eyes, "Xie Shiyun is not dead." Upon hearing this, Shiyue's body trembled violently, as if struck by lightning. He widened his eyes, staring at Xiaoyan in disbelief, his lips quivering slightly, but no sound escaped. Finally, as if using all his strength, he spoke hoarsely. "Tell me, where is she?" The moment the words left his mouth, he let out a long breath as if a burden had been lifted, but the expectation in his eyes had not diminished in the slightest. Faced with his questioning, the other person first sighed helplessly before slowly saying, "Alas, I'm really not sure about her whereabouts. But one thing is certain, she's alive." At this point, he paused slightly, seemingly observing the other's reaction, then continued. "We had been sending people to search underwater before, but we always found nothing. However, just yesterday, someone found her necklace on another beach quite far from the incident site. So I infer that she must have been rescued by a kind person." After hearing these words, the huge stone hanging in his heart finally dropped, and an ecstatic expression involuntarily appeared on his face. At this moment, no words could describe the joy and excitement in his heart. Yin City. In the towering Su Corporation headquarters building, located in the heart of the bustling metropolis, in a spacious and bright office, Su Yin sat opposite a middle-aged man. They sat on comfortable sofas, and the atmosphere seemed somewhat serious. Su Yin wore a refined and well-fitted suit. His handsome face revealed determination and decisiveness. The middle-aged man opposite him exuded a composed and wise demeanor, his eyes reflecting the experience accumulated over years. Sunlight streamed through the large floor-to-ceiling windows, casting dappled patterns of light and shadow on the floor. Outside the window was the city's hustle and bustle, but at this moment, the atmosphere in the office was exceptionally quiet, as if time itself had frozen. Their voices occasionally echoed in the air, carrying a heavy weight. "Su Yan, I heard that the Xie family's granddaughter, who had been lost for many years, has been found, and it was thanks to you," the man said, looking at him. "Father, it was a fortunate coincidence. That day, I was strolling along the bund when suddenly, I saw a figure lying on the ground. Upon closer inspection, I realized she was unconscious. At the time, I didn't know her identity. It was purely out of kindness and compassion that I decided to take her to the hospital for care. After returning home, I began to investigate her background, and after some effort, I finally found her family here, the Xie family." Su Yin looked at his father, a glimmer in his eyes. Su Juanhao knew his son's thoughts well. His son definitely had feelings for this Xie family girl. The Xie family is a prominent and reputable family in Lan City. Although I haven't met that girl yet, if we can establish a connection with the Xie family, it would be greatly beneficial to us. Su Yan fell silent for a moment, then looked at Su Juanhao and said, Father, this is the first girl I've ever liked. Why must we involve ourselves with business interests? He had fallen in love with Xie Zi at first sight, even though their meeting was unexpected. However, deep within him, he was filled with conflict and helplessness. Although he was already the CEO of Su Corporation, in some matters, he still couldn't escape his father's control. He understood that business interests and family honor held significant positions in his life, which forced him to consider more when it came to matters of the heart. He wanted to get close to her, to understand everything about her, but he also worried that his lack of freedom would hurt her. He silently told himself that he had to be cautious and not let his emotions affect his career and family.